School Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host. Do y'all mean a revolution? Do we have a major discovery? Or do we have a major deception? We got to get into that. Before we do, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Well, there's so much going on in the world today. I could have started with a little World War III news. We'll touch on that tomorrow. We know about Big U and Bella Beezy, them blackface Ku Klux Klan men. We'll touch on that tomorrow. This, I got to dig into. Because I got some Project Bluebeam information we're going to be digging into. Major discovery or major deception? Where are they going with this? I didn't even know nothing about this till today. So guess what we finna do? We finna learn about this together. Salute.
We are going to be looking at some disturbing videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. So we actually have a lot to talk about in this video. A lot has been happening. There has been a lot of news circulating around the world.
Salute.
Just a reminder before we do begin, I know I have not been uploading on this channel like I used to. I used to upload every day, but now I have been splitting that time between this channel and my other channel, Seconds of Horror. On Seconds of Horror, I get to talk about high strangeness, paranormal, mysteries, topics that I do not talk about on here. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these news stories. So it would seem like the pyramids of Egypt have something more going on with them than what meets the eye. And I have been very fascinated with this topic ever since I saw this photo. Matter of fact, going back to October 19th, 2024, I made a video for TikTok where I said this.
Have you ever wondered if everything we have been told is a lie and that there is more going on beneath our feet than we realize? These pyramids and other ancient buildings found all over the world could be massive skyscrapers. Technology we think is brand new that was just invented could have been recently discovered and is thousands of years old.
Now, make no mistake about it, this is not a new concept. This is not a new theory. There have been many channels to have this discussion about old world buildings. It's a very fascinating topic. But as I was taking a look at this photo here, taking a look at the many skyscrapers that exist today, and taking a look at the pyramids themselves, I was thinking to myself, could there be something more buried beneath the sands? Is it possible that we are looking at the top of a massive skyscraper? While that may sound silly, while that may sound like fiddlesticks, or what somebody said in my video yesterday, beans and franks, while that may sound like beans and franks, news has come out that that idea may not be so far off. There are different news agencies talking about this topic, but I'm reading this article from the Express Tribune, which was published today, March 21st. This article is titled, Massive Underground Structures Found Beneath Giza Pyramids Spark Ancient Energy Grid Conspiracy Theories. This all has to do with what was found beneath the Kresby Pyramid. This article continues to say that a stunning new radar study has sent shockwaves across the internet, revealing a vast subterranean complex beneath the pyramids of Giza, challenging long-held beliefs that the structures were built solely as royal tombs. Using synthetic aperture radar tomography, scientists scanned the Kresby Pyramid and uncovered what appears to be an underground system stretching 2 kilometers beneath all 3 major pyramids. Even more striking were the 8 vertical cylindrical wells encircled by spiral pathways descending 648 meters below the surface. These wells ultimately merge into 2 massive cube-shaped chambers, each measuring 80 meters on each side. This article goes on to say how this discovery adds fuel to the fringe theories that have circulated for decades, suggesting these structures may have had a mechanical or even energy-producing function. Now look, I don't think we'll ever be given the truth or the real purpose behind these pyramids. They'll never tell us. But if this is indeed the truth, what we're looking at here, these do look like massive batteries. The article goes on to say how inventor Nikola Tesla once speculated that the pyramids might collect and harness Earth's natural energy. Engineer Christopher Dunn echoed similar ideas in his book, The Giza Power Plant, proposing that the Great Pyramid operated as a giant machine capable of converting seismic vibrations into usable energy. If this is indeed true, if this is what they found, if this was the purpose of the pyramids, you have to ask yourself, what were they using this energy for? What technology, what equipment, what machinery did they have? What did this energy power? There are people on different social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, and so forth coming up with different theories about the pre-flood civilizations or even some sort of alien technology, which was also a theory about the Great Sphinx, that there is a massive ship or some sort of ancient technology that exists beneath the Great Sphinx. And if you think about it, there are massive ancient structures all across the world. There are many pyramids all across the world, from the Americas to Egypt.
Now,
Do all of the
I'm just gonna say this. Some people think, well, a lot of people think that the surface world is the world where we're living. That's not totally true. You see what I'm saying? Inner Earth civilization, you gotta understand. We gotta dig deeper into that. Living on the surface hasn't always been a thing for mankind. That's what they need to teach and stop telling lies to everybody. You see what I'm saying? That's why so much nonsense go on up here. Y'all understand that?
of these structures serve the
Yeah,
same purpose? Are they just meant to harness energy from the earth to energize these ancient civilizations and their technology? This is an idea I played around with in one of my most recent videos that had to do with the AI project Stargate. I said in that video, they are not building Stargate. They are not creating Stargate. They found something underneath Texas and they are building around it. What is a Stargate? A Stargate is a portal, and you will find many of these ancient civilizations have spoken about Stargates and portals. This technology is nothing new. AI is nothing new. These skyscrapers, these massive buildings are not new. All they're doing is finding and discovering this ancient technology, and they are remastering them. In this next disturbing video, I don't tell people what to do on this channel or what to believe. I give my opinion, and
they're thinking this energy source, it used to light up the whole world, the surface world. Not even understanding, how do you know it's not lighting up the inner earth world?
And you can do whatever you want with my opinion. If you agree with it, that's fine. If you disagree with it, that's fine. It is my opinion to stay away from fast food. Not only is it unhealthy for you, but how can I say it? Soylent Green Soylent Green is people, right? Like you can put the two and two together. Now, I'm sort of a hypocrite because back in the day, I used to love McDonald's breakfast. That would be the only fast food I would eat until I even left that alone altogether. There were many quote unquote theories that have come out about McDonald's and Soylent Green is people, but I highly doubt it's just McDonald's. I am sure a lot of these fast food places have many, many dark secrets. And I do believe that KFC might be giving us the truth in plain sight here. So what am I talking about? Well, if you're not aware, KFC has a new commercial out. I saw the commercial myself, and I have to say, it is weird. It's very weird.
About, I don't want to know about KFC, brother. On to we got us a topic. What
Our latest archaeological discovery was just made at the pyramids. But what does this mean for Christianity? For a long time, the pyramids have had...
Is this going to be a great discovery or a great deception? We got to learn what's going on here.
Tons of speculation and mystery about their origin. On one side of the spectrum, you have some people that say it was definitely built by humans. Just don't know how they did it. And the other side says it was definitely aliens, a more advanced species that came over and used their advanced technology to build something that within that context and time in history can't be explained. But this latest discovery may reveal something even more mysterious. And it's possible that the narrative that all these pyramids were tombs is all wrong. And interestingly enough, some of these theories may even be explained through scripture. But before we get into that, guys, my name is Ruslan. This channel exists to encourage, empower, and inspire you to live a life that blesses God. So if you're new here, or if you're not new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed. There's a huge percentage of people that watch this channel, unfortunately, are not. All right, let's jump into the video. I'll try to keep this as simple as possible. Basically, they used radar Doppler tomography from outer space that they were able to scan to see the foundations of the pyramids, meaning that they now understand what's underneath the pyramids. And what they discovered is rather shocking, if we're going to be honest. This was posted by Jay Anderson, who basically kind of synthesized the press release. And I think he's the one that created these graphics. So I want to make sure we give him a shout out, where they show what's underneath these pyramids using this new technology that can help them scan the ground. Check this out.
The recent findings from deploying this technology are nothing short of mind-blowing, because what's been discovered is that there are huge structures coming down from the base of the pyramid deep into the bedrock. In fact, over 600 meters deep, which then connects to structures that extend up to 2 kilometers below the surface of the ground.
That's really deep. They're going to the bedrock, meaning the foundation of the earth, which is crazy that the bedrock's so high in Egypt. You know, I didn't expect almost a mile deep, I guess, of just sand and stuff, dirt and sand. And so they're going to the very, very, very deep of the bedrock. And these pyramids have these foundations that we didn't know they had prior to this.
Massive internal structures connected to the base of the pyramid and extending deep, deep down. This is what we know so far. This has allowed researchers to create a 3D model of the internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, this model has revealed a previously unknown chamber with 5 horizontal levels and a sloping roof, which in of itself is an architectural design unlike any previously documented in the Giza pyramid.
Okay, so I've always found it odd that they spent all this time, all this money, decades, to just build tombs for dead guys. Like, I understand that the pharaohs were like godlike to them, but to spend all this money, all this resource to build something that was just a glorified.
These pyramids are all over the world. These pyramids is in the sea. See, they trying to lock us into a certain geographical location and pretend like this was it right here. These pyramids is all over the world, even in our seas.
Burial site for a pharaoh didn't really jive with me. Something like something was off. It seemed like a bad waste of resource and time. It just seemed weird. And so now what they're starting to get at is that perhaps these structures are alluding to some more utility for the pyramids than just these places that house the tombs of dead guys.
Now, this design not only implies a functional purpose, but also a level of sophisticated engineering that completely blows the dynastic Egyptian model out of the water. I mean, the pyramid itself was already a massive red flag in the ancient Egyptian historical narrative. But now, with this discovery, I think it's become impossible.
And so this is where all the theories start to come out, including Billy Carson's beloved Emerald Tablets.
It's also possible that this spiraling cylindrical series of structures are staircases. And I can't help but think of the channeled writings of Thoth the Atlantean, you know, the Emerald Tablets, speaking of a lost hall of records, a sacred hall of knowledge below the Giza Plateau, the halls of Amenti. Could this be the lost hall of records from the pre-flood era?
And it's interesting to hear him say the Emerald Tablets while at the same time talking about the pre-flood era, which we're definitely going to get to a little later in this video. And so everyone's favorite drunk uncle had to get in on this. This is Alex Jones, and he posted this rendition of what the foundation of it looks like. I don't know if he put this together or AI did, but this is rather spectacular. I gotta admit it. And some people even began drawing the similarities between this image and the Washington Monument and the connection of something inside of the human spirit to want to create long, tall, and deep pillars. Now, this has been an absolute boom in the woohoo community, with some even pointing to the similarities of earthing and plants and the energy of the earth being able to be harnessed by you and I. In response to the video that we looked at earlier, check out this reaction. I am reminded of these copper coil wrapped cylindrical sticks gifted to me by a friend. I was told they create some kind of an energetic effect that enhances the health and vitality of the plants. I'm not sure how they connected this to the pyramids, but like, I'm here for it. Needless to say, from now until they actually reveal all of the archaeological discoveries, this is a great time for the Billy Carsons of the world to have a woo-woo course. And like many things that are theories and even scams, they tend to be anchored in some degree of truth. And this is where we get into the theory that the pyramids weren't just glorified tombs for powerful dead guys, that the pyramids were actually used to harvest energy. That's right. And this is not just some crazy conspiracy. This was apparently believed by engineer Nikola Tesla. And here's a breakdown from the WiFi files of the theory that Nikola Tesla believed regarding this energy and how it was harvested. Check this out.
Acoustic engineers have determined the gallery resonates at 440 hertz and naturally emits an F-sharp chord. 440 hertz and the F-sharp chord have been connected to a lot of woo-woo ideas, but there's a reason for that. It's considered a sound that resonates in harmony with the earth. The builders of the pyramid knew this. Longtime Mac users will recognize this sacred chord. At the top of the gallery.
That's crazy. Now, there's a whole theory about modern music and potentially retuning certain songs to be more in line with the earth. Like, that's a whole thing that mixing engineers talk about a lot. And so it's interesting that this is in tune and the Mac is in tune, and that there's this whole connection with all of it.
Gallery is a small shaft leading to the king's chamber. The opening is 8.4 by 4.8 inches. This is the perfect size for hydrogen microwaves to pass into the king's chamber, which also resonates at 440 hertz and F sharp. Above the king's chamber are 5 layers of granite beams, stacked and separated by air gaps. This is called the relieving chamber because it was believed that this interior structure relieved the weight of the pyramid. That's not what it does. The beams are smooth on 3 sides, but rough cut on the top. Christopher Dunn believes the reason for the rough cut is this is how the beams were tuned. The builders could vibrate the granite beams and slowly chip away at the stone until they resonated with an F-sharp chord, which they do. The king's chamber is what's known as a Helmholtz resonator. When you blow air across the top of a bottle and create sound, that's a Helmholtz resonator. Change the volume of liquid in the bottle or change the volume of stone within the chamber, you change the pitch. The entire complex is a giant musical instrument. Now, some skeptics reluctantly agree that the Great Pyramid has musical properties. But for skeptics to consider the pyramid as a power plant, they would need evidence to show that a giant stone pyramid would respond to electromagnetic energy.
Okay.
There was no...
Okay. I'm going to be honest. I don't know how we make the leap from it vibrating to it being a power plant. Within just making this video, there's some very obvious things that our buddy from Why Not Files got completely wrong. For starters, the F-sharp chord is not 440 frequency. The F-sharp note is also not 440 frequency. Okay, it's 369 hertz. Every single note on a piano makes a specific frequency when you hit it. Respectfully, it makes me question how much of the rest of the video is inaccurate based on this whole, the tunes are connected to 440 hertz when he's saying F-sharp chords, and that's not how chords work, nor is this the actual frequencies of the notes. But that's neither here nor there.
Whether true or not, it's scientifically possible that the Great Pyramid was a structure for creating, harnessing, and focusing energy. The exterior was made of material that insulates electricity. The interior was made of material that conducts electricity. The chambers were made of material that creates electricity. The next piece of evidence is the pyramid's ability to focus EM energy. In 2018, scientists used radio waves at different frequencies to see if the Great Pyramid would interact with electromagnetic waves of a resonant length. Their experiments proved that in a resonant state, the pyramid can concentrate electromagnetic energy in the internal chambers as well as under its base. Resonance in the pyramid can be induced by radio waves with the lengths ranging from 200 to 600 meters. The closer to 200 meters, the more dramatic the effect. A year after that, in 2019, Eric Wilson published a paper called A Large-Scale Thermal Acoustic Generator. The paper describes how when granite and other rocks are vibrated...
Another thing, the deception that they don't know who built these pyramids is because y'all don't know who y'all are. We built them everywhere. We're the only people who have been all over this goddamn planet, in Asia, in what's called Europe, in what's called Africa, in what's called the Americas. We the only ones. We the only ones on this planet when there was no such thing as a Caucasian on this goddamn planet. So once they stop telling lies to themselves, then maybe they'll really learn something.
Electrons will migrate through the rock and up to the surface. By combining science and music, the builders of the pyramid created a power-generating machine tuned to the natural harmonic of the Earth's vibration that primarily comes from the tidal energy created by the moon's gravity. This technology, created thousands of years ago, could generate unlimited clean energy. But how did they get the energy out? That brings us back to Tesla.
So regardless on the theories around frequencies and whether the pyramids can harvest energy, you're kind of left with two different views of this. Before I explain those, what we do know is that it likely was not ancient Egyptians that had this sort of revolutionary technology. So we're kind of left with two possibilities. One is that it was some other more advanced civilization that built these sorts of things that got wiped out by the flood that's also referenced in the Bible and referenced in many other stories from antiquity, or it was aliens. And the alien story tends to be very compelling. This is where Billy Carson gets his emerald tablets from. This is where a lot of people find intrigue in that another species that's more technologically advanced came down and gave humans this advanced technology. But there's only one problem with that. And my buddy, Nate Sala from Wise Disciple, who's actually going to be at the Blessed God Summit, more on that later, did a great job explaining why the idea of aliens coming here is unlikely. Check this out.
We even know on a very limited scale that there are other beings that God has created who, it appears, do not share our unique quality of being made in the image of God. I'm referring to angels right now. So, is it possible for there to be other beings that God has created somewhere else in the universe? And the answer is yes, of course, it's possible. But that's not the question to ask, in my opinion. I think a better question to ask is it plausible that the experiences that folks are having are with alien beings from another planet in our universe? And as far as I can understand, as I understand the issue, the answer is no, it is not plausible. There's a really great book. It's called The Privileged Planet. Well, according to the authors of The Privileged
Planet. Got to keep making you think you're going out somewhere, knowing they can never get past the Van Allen belt. Make you go out instead of going in. It's inner. See why they telling you great structures under the Giza, but then they still trying to talk to you about somewhere beyond the universe. Yeah, because they will. If you go back to President Roosevelt, he already tried to do an expedition in the inner Earth. That's a channel. Mr. Mythos has some good stories about that in Tibet. But anyway, you see these bastards try to keep you locked into there's only certain amount of land, a certain amount. Remember they say there is no more land. Well, that ain't what Admiral Byrd said on the motherfucking record. People just forget Admiral Byrd said it was a whole nother continent when he was doing his first little discovery in the Arctic. Can't be taking these people too seriously. But we got to understand that the Great Deception is a great discovery or a great deception finna get played on us. Because these people act like aliens coming from different universes enslave your ass. Imagine that. The aliens need your ass to work for them now. Boy.
Privileged Planet, the Earth fits into the Goldilocks zone, which is a rare environment in the universe for life to thrive. As far as we can tell, only our planet fits into this Goldilocks zone. There does not appear to be another Goldilocks zone out there in the observable universe. So that's why I say this is not plausible that there are alien beings from another planet. But, okay, let's concede that for argument's sake. Let's say they do exist. Okay, well, now they need to travel all the way here. The problem is the nearest galaxy is something like 25,000 years away, and that's if the spaceship travels at the speed of light. So now we're talking about beings that would have to live unbelievably ridiculous long periods of time, and in order to survive getting here. And that's why I say it's unlikely. It's implausible that there are alien beings from some other planet in a galaxy far, far away traveling here. Now, maybe we're not dealing with interstellar travel, right? Maybe we're dealing with interdimensional travel. Okay, that's more interesting because the Bible appears to touch on this notion, right? Okay, Christians in the audience, here's a question for you. Where is heaven located? If you look at the creation account in Genesis and you sort of, reflect on what we know about science, well, then clearly God created the universe at a finite moment in the past. This means that space and time and matter, all these things came into existence at some point. And if you rewind time enough down to the moment of creation, what you have before creation, if I can use those words to make sense of that moment, what that is an environment outside of space, time, and matter. To the best of our knowledge, to me, this is another dimension.
He goes on to point out that in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, the Apostle Paul, who's writing the church in Ephesus, kind of alludes to this fairly clearly in verse 12. He says, we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. That there is an unseen world that is happening. And is it possible that spirits coming from the unseen world are able to impact different parts of history from a different dimension into our dimension? That's what I would argue. Yeah,
that's what the heart machine. They got machines for that. See, these people are up to no good. We're gonna get to that. We got a lot we're gonna look into. These people are up to no good. So that's why we got the title. Is this the Great Deception or the Great Discovery? I know they ain't gonna never tell us nothing they discover. So pretty much we're probably looking at a great deception that's not good news for us.
Yes, I would argue, just like Nate did, that this is actually more plausible than this idea that aliens came and gave Egyptians sophisticated tools that we don't have access to today. And that's how they were able to build these super mile deep pillars that the pyramids then stood on top of. And they were potentially even able to use some form of energy from these pyramids.
They just tell us about the Giza pyramid instead of talking about the pyramids that's all over the world, even in the sea. And once again, it's a historical fact. The only people that's been all over the world building is us. That's a historical fact. When it wasn't even any people on this motherfucking so-called globe that you call white, before they even existed, and that's a historical fact. Before the Chinese people existed, anything called a Latin American, there was only us. So you have to start there.
And if you think about it, that is a beautiful part about the gospel narrative. The idea that Jesus, who is God, Yahweh, is immaterial and then comes in a material, physical body, lives the life we couldn't live, dies the death we should have died on the cross in our place for our sins, then rises on the third day and empowers us to usher in heaven on this side of eternity. The same way we see him in the Lord's Prayer say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Heaven is another realm. Heaven is not a physical place, though there will be a new heaven and new earth when Jesus returns. That's the beautiful part. And all of us who are followers of Jesus get in on this mission with him. And that is exactly the heart of what we're attempting to do with the Blessed God Summit. Like I told you guys, my buddy Nate Sala is going to be there. We have 3 days. Day 1 is all about worldview.
We got to take all these dudes, their information with a grain of salt, but we got to know what angle they're coming from. So we got to understand they still want to pretend like they don't know who built these structures. And they still willing to say aliens did it. That's crazy. The aliens built it. That's why they do. See, that's why the U.S. civilization is so dumb. And you wonder why you can go to China and certain places in Asia. They're not telling dumbass stories to their kids. That's why they smart. They don't tell them lies and shit like that cloud their judgment on shit. Only make a dumb you down. You don't know who did nothing. That's crazy.
Mate, the world is going crazy about these 8 cylindrical things underneath the pyramids in Giza. Let's look into it, man, because it might not be what you think.
Stop what you're doing. We legitimately have some breaking news.
I am struggling to express in words just how significant of a discovery this is.
A new study has been revealed to show massive pillars underneath the pyramid of Kresby in Egypt.
Scientists have discovered something massive beneath the pyramid.
Scientists made an earth-shattering discovery. What if I told you there's something massive hidden beneath the Great Pyramid?
Hey friends, breaking news, the Pyramid of Giza. You are not going to believe what they found.
Literally not going to believe what they've just found underneath the Kresby, the middle pyramid in Giza.
So naturally, I was really excited when I saw that video and people were sending me TikTok videos of creators talking about it and that. I'm like, oh my God, we need to everything we've learned and been told about the pyramids, how they're built, we need to push it to one side because we need to start from the ground up, and I was thinking maybe this is one step closer to the idea that, aliens or alien tech helped build these things. And my mind was going crazy, especially last night. I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking to myself, well, maybe now the pyramids could be the conductor of natural atmosphere, like lightning going down these columns and being banked into these 80-meter square blocks. Maybe they're the harnessing of the power. I don't know, man. My mind was going a bit crazy last night about 2 o'clock in the morning. So looking into the comments, I noticed that so many people were saying, well, where's the source information to this claim? Where's the source info, please? Is inauthentic to not link the March 15th, 2025 press release mentioned in this video. I read the release and showed it. if doing your own research is asking too much, then at least be satisfied with your own lazy ignorance. It's like, damn, okay, right? So I saw he showed it. So this is what he's referring to here. This is the report that he's referring to. But hold up, right? So I thought, well, okay, he's not linked any source material. I mean, it's an X post, for Christ's sake, right? So I've managed to track down his original post, and that is over on substack.com. Okay, Greg Reese, substack.com, along with the video that he's posted on X. This is it here, yeah? Basically, what he's got, you know, the writing here, I've read it. It basically echoes what was in the video, okay? So I was like, all right, well, that's his source, again, his own source. What about these claims from Corrado Belanga and Filippo Biondi, right? Because apparently there was this conference in Italy, right? So I've tried searching for this conference in Italy, and it was here, and it was actually sold out. It happened on the 16th of March, 2025. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. We're getting somewhere here now. So when I'm trying to Google this, right, to find out more information, I'm seeing like other articles talking about it, right? This one just today. Massive underground structures found beneath Giza pyramids spark ancient energy grid conspiracy theories, right? The findings made public through a scientific paper and a press release issued on March 15th detail 5 identical multi-level structures connected by geometric passageways near the base of the Kresby pyramid, right? Even more striking were the 8 vertical cylindrical wells encircled by spiral pathways descending 648 meters below the surface. These wells ultimately merge into 2 massive cube-shaped chambers, which measuring 80 meters on each side. A video from the Reese report declared that the revelation challenges the long-held belief that pyramids serve solely as a royal tombs. Instead, it adds fuel to the fringe theories that has circulated for decades, suggesting these structures may have had a mechanical or even energy-producing functions. So, again, everything that I'm seeing on the internet reverts back to Greg Reese. So I'm starting to lose the plot here. I'm thinking, well, like, can we just see this bloody report a minute, right? Now, if we go back to his video here.
Via NDPI entitled Synthetic Aperture.
So NDPI, I Googled NDPI, right? That is where this apparently, this is. So I found it, okay. Synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography reveals details of undiscovered high-resolution internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Fantastic, right? So I downloaded the PDF. And by the way, I will link these sources in the description so you can go and check it out yourself. Because let me tell you, mate, this PDF of their discovery is absolutely incredible, right? Here's their report on the MDP. This is what he was referring to in his video. But this was actually published on the 19th of October, 2022. And look, right? Look at the extensive research they've gone into this. This is incredible. However, what I did is I copied all of that and I condensed it down, put it on ChatGPT and took out basically the conclusion of it, right? And I double checked. I said, is there anything to do with 8 columns? So nothing in this, and you can check for yourself, nothing in this talks about any 8 columns underneath the pyramids. The only thing that is talking about on this is the 5 buildings within the pyramid.
Near the base of the pyramid, 5 identical structures are seen, connected by geometric pathways. Inside each of these are 5 horizontal levels and a sloping roof. Below these 5 structures.
That's real. That's on the report. Okay? The pictures bar the CGI a little bit, but these pictures here, that's on the report. That is.
Are 8 cylindrical.
This is where it goes a little bit mixy waters, because I don't see anything. There's nothing written about these in the report. Is nothing, right? So I thought, why is that? Why would you go all to this length and then just come up with this extraordinary claim here? So I want to go into the technology of the SAR in a second, but I did want to show you what I found as well. This was a month ago. A lady on YouTube called Nicole Chicolo. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Maybe it's not. I'm not too sure.
Good evening and welcome to the Expedition Channel, the official channel of the Kefren Project. This is an announcement in my role as Head of Communications for the research project. I will now read the official press release of the Kefren Project, which has just been sent to the Italian and international press. Here it is, regarding the Giza Plateau. A vast underground city has been discovered beneath the pyramids. It is the mythical Amenti. This discovery was made possible thanks to SAR satellite data and archaeological research. As part of the Kefren research project, Dr. Armando Mai, Professor Filippo Biondi, and Professor Corrado Malanga have invited both Italian and international press to a special conference, held both in person and online, to reveal the results of an innovative and groundbreaking study that has redefined the boundaries of satellite data analysis and archaeological exploration. During the press conference, for the first time ever, structures believed to correspond to the legendary halls of Amenti will be revealed. Using synthetic aperture radar (SAR) technology, combined with the new Doppler tomography methodology, the research team has made a series of unprecedented discoveries, located precisely beneath the Giza Plateau. This technological innovation involves converting photonic radar information into phononic signals, vibrational data within the acoustic band, thus enabling the exploration of deeply buried structures beneath the Earth's surface. The main discoveries to be presented include the identification of structures, rooms, and corridors within the Pyramid of Kefren, the discovery of an extensive network of vertical shafts, estimated to extend at least 1 kilometer deep beneath each Great Pyramid, which appear to serve as access points to this underground system. The existence of vast chambers beneath the Earth's surface, comparable in size to the pyramids themselves. A remarkably strong correlation between the layout and characteristics of these underground chambers and the legendary halls of Amenti, as described in ancient myths, including those associated with the god Thoth.
So that was like a month before the press conference. The press conference has already been and gone now. So where's the actual official report? Not the 2022 report that Greg Reese was talking about and, told us that that's the report where we got this information, because it wasn't. That report was talking about a scan of the pyramid back in 2022, which revealed the stacking of these buildings inside the pyramids, nothing to do with the columns. Okay. So the only thing that I've got near that is back in May 14th, 2024, because the lady a second ago, she was talking about the SAR technology mixed with the Filippo, what's his name now? Biondi technology, the software that he created to work in combination with the SAR technology, which uses the SAR and then adds on the vibrational wavelengths that you can pick up, right? So but the only thing that I've seen close to that on the internet is this report here. Scientists are investigating a puzzling underground anomaly near the Giza pyramids, right? archaeologists in Egypt have discovered an anomaly beneath a royal graveyard near Giza, 4,500 years old Great Pyramid. Basically, they found an L-shaped structure 33 feet long and buried 6.5 feet deep. Okay, so this is what they found using this this technology. Have they used that and ran with it? I'm not too sure. Tell me what you think. I hope that there is these 8 columns that go 2 kilometers into the ground. I hope that they go, do you know what? We've mentioned it a month ago. We've talked about the press release. We've done the press release in Italy. Here's the actual report, not the 2022 report that Greg Reese is talking about in his video that claims to have the columns in it, which it doesn't. Tell me what you think. Let me know if you get any more.
All right, folks, I need you to stop what you're doing and pay very close attention to what I'm about to say, because what I'm about to tell you, it's not a drill. It's not a movie. This isn't science fiction. No, it's as real as it gets. Now, imagine waking up one morning, stepping outside, and seeing what looks like God, Jesus Christ in the sky, telling you to obey his commands. Imagine hearing a voice in your head that aren't your thoughts. It's them. It's the elites. It's the globalists putting these thoughts in your head. It's the people behind the curtain that are pulling the screens, using technology to fake the second coming of Jesus Christ. It might sound like a fictional tale. It might sound crazy, but it's not, because this is what we call Project Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam. We're going to read this whole book in a second. It's not very long. It's like 30 pages or something. We're going to read all of it. And you might find it pretty interesting what's in here. So stick with me here, folks. So what I just described is what Project Bluebeam is all about. This is the end game, everybody. And they're getting ready to flip the switch, according to some people. Now, that's up for debate, and we can talk about that a little bit too. But we're going to open up the book and see exactly what's inside. But first, we're going to talk about it because it came out in the early 1990s. A guy named Sergei Monast, he was a journalist in Canada. He wrote this book. He called it Project Bluebeam. He said he had insider information from NASA and the United Nations that connected all these dots, and he found some plans that they were actually trying to do this thing. And they had a plan for a time when basically they're going to unite the countries and the religions of the world to create a new world government, a new world order, a new world religion. Believe it or not, that's up to you. Some people discount this book, saying he made all of it up. Whether he made it all up or not, I mean, we can't really know. But what we can do is read the book and see if there's anything in there that makes sense. All right. So according to him, NASA and the United Nations started cooking up this plan, this major plan to take over the world. And how? Well, basically by faking a spiritual event so big, so real looking, that people would just give up everything, basically give up their whole lives and go along with it. All right. And what am I talking about here? Well, we're talking about giant holograms in the sky. I know it sounds crazy, but the technology does exist. So picture this. Jesus comes back. He's in the sky. He shows up in one section of the world, and then in other section of the world, Muhammad shows up, and then Buddha in the other section. And all of these figures, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and all these other figures are basically telling the world to unite under a one ruler, under one world religion, because everything they knew about their own religion was misinterpreted, was fake, was a scam. And now this new religion will unite the people of the world under one government, under one religion. And it's not just visuals, guys, that they're using. They have technology to basically beam these voices directly into your head. I know it sounds crazy, and we'll get into the book in just a second, but the technology is there, okay? And the plan is to make people hear things that aren't there and to make them believe that it is God speaking to them directly. So if you believe God is speaking to you directly, audibly, you're going to listen to that. And especially if you have no frame of reference for what the voice is, you believe it's God and it's telling you it's God. Most people, okay, I'm not saying you watching because you're probably smarter than that, but most people are going to stop what they're doing and they're going to listen to that voice and they're going to follow it. However, we know that if we hear something or somebody says something that is counter to the word of God, counter to the Bible, well, then we know it comes from an evil spirit. We know it comes from the other side, and we know not to listen to it, because all things must be compared with Scripture. Okay? All spirits must be tested with the name of Jesus Christ. If something comes to you and says, hey, I'm this or I'm that, listen to me, follow me, you say, well, who do you say Jesus Christ is? And if it's anything other than what is written in Scripture, you know that that is totally wrong. It's totally wrong. It's totally false, and you should not listen to it. So Project Bluebeam has 4 steps. The first step, they're going to, well, okay, let's just real quick, we'll just go over it, and then we're going to read the book. The first step, they're going to mess with the religion. All the religions, not just Christianity. They want to shake the foundation of all the world's religions. How? Well, they're going to reveal fake earthquakes. Well, they're going to create earthquakes, and they're going to reveal these new discoveries, pretty much these new archaeological discoveries, and these things are going to appear out of nowhere that are going to tell people that the Bible that they know is wrong. Here's the new Bible. Everything they know is wrong. Now you have to believe this new thing, because this new discovery disproves everything that you once believed. Okay. And that's where they're going with this. And then they're also going to do a massive 3D hologram sky show, basically projected from satellites all over the world, are going to show these massive displays of whatever religious leader you want in the sky. And then along with those displays, the ELF frequencies are going to tell you to drop your guard and obey. Mind control frequencies using signals like ELF waves will send messages right to your brain, making you think God is talking to you, right? But it's them. And we know that this technology exists. Whether or not they can use it in this manner and to this extent is up for debate. But the technology is there, and that's not up for debate. So what they want to do basically is they want to create chaos. They want to fake these supernatural events. They want to make it look like an alien invasion, that all cities around the world are being invaded by UFOs. They're going to put fake UFOs in the air, according to this book, Project Bluebeam, and they're going to fake a rapture using this technology. And they're going to try and scare people enough that they're not only going to fall in line and listen to what they're told, but they're going to beg, they're going to plead, and they're going to ask with desperation for a one world government, for a one world religion, and to get rid of these old ways of humanity. And they want to usher in this new age of humanity. Okay. And the ultimate purpose of this is so that the government can save you, right? It's, game over, because the government's got your back. And once you give up your freedom for control, well, then game over, right? They control everything. You're under their control at this point. So you might be asking, this sounds crazy, but why does it matter? I don't believe any of this. I know. I get it. It does sound crazy, but the tech is real, okay? There's a lot of real things that are really not widely known that do exist. And we all know about the crazy technology that's rolling out. I've made videos on this mind control technology, ELF waves, all these things. These are all old news. They've been doing this, since the 70s and the 80s. And the hologram stuff, yeah, that's actually true too. There's a paper written by BYU, I believe, the Brigham Young University, that basically proves that they achieve these lifelike holograms that people don't even know where it's coming from. Now, I'll try and find the paper, and if I can find it, I will link it in the. I'll put it right here in the video so you can see. But have you seen the tech that they're rolling out lately? The AI stuff, all this new stuff that's coming out. And considering this book was written in the 90s, I think it's very, suspicious, if you ask me. So holograms that can talk, I don't know. AI that sounds human, yeah, absolutely. 5G towers everywhere, yeah, I mean, that's true, right? There's high-speed internet. There's satellites that give you high-speed internet all over the world, right? I mean, Elon Musk's Starlink, for example, right? That's satellite systems that will give you internet anywhere. Okay, so technically these systems are, they're available, they're in play. Whether or not they will be used for Project Bluebeam, like I said, is up for debate. So it's really not conspiracy, the technology aspect of it. What is conspiracy is the plans and the potential use for this. So, we're going to read the book and then we can discuss it a little further. We know they got the tools, and it just seems like they need a perfect crisis to roll it out. We've seen this before, folks. We've seen it. It's nothing new. It's the Hegelian dialectic. It's problem, reaction, solution. They want to make a problem so that people panic. And then who swoops in with the solution? Well, it's the government. It's the New World Order. It's the one world religion. The problem is the things happening in the sky, right? All these things, these supernatural events that have been faked. And the solution? Well, it's a global dictatorship that will save you from these terrible things that are happening. Let's pick up the book now and we'll start reading. So here it is, Project Bluebeam by Sergei Monast. Introduction. The infamous NASA Bluebeam project has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. We must remember that the New Age religion is the very foundation for the New World government, without which religion the dictatorship of the New World Order is completely impossible. And I'll repeat that. Without a universal belief in a New Age religion, the success of the New World Order will be impossible. That is why Project Bluebeam is so important to them, but has been so well hidden until now. First step, engineered earthquakes and hoaxed discoveries. The first step in the NASA Bluebeam project concerns the breakdown, reevaluation of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup, with artificially created earthquakes at certain precise locations around the planet, and of supposedly new discoveries, which will finally explain to all the people the error of all the fundamental religious doctrines. The falsification of this information will be used to make the nations believe that the religious doctrines have been misunderstood for centuries and misinterpreted. Psychological preparations for that first step have already been implemented with the film 2001: A Space Odyssey, the Star Trek series, Independence Day, and others, all of which deal with alien invasions from space and the coming together of all nations to repel the invaders. The last films, Jurassic Park, deals with the theories of evolution and the claim that God's word are lies. Hoax discoveries. Why is it important to understand the first step? Is that those earthquakes will hit different parts of the world where scientific and archaeological teachings have indicated that arcane mysteries have been buried. By those types of earthquakes, it will be possible for scientists to rediscover these arcane mysteries, which will be used to discredit all the fundamental religious doctrines in the world. This is the first preparation for the plan of humanity, because it is what they want to do is to destroy the beliefs of all Christians, all Muslims, and all other religions on the planet. To do that, they will need some false proof from the far past in order to prove all nations that the religions have been misinterpreted and misunderstood. So it sounds like they're going to be causing fake earthquakes at all these ancient archaeological sites like Göbekli Tepe and Sacsayhuaman in Peru, and all these different places you see on ancient aliens and whatnot. The earthquakes will happen there, Skinwalker Ranch, and what are they going to find underneath it? Well, we've been speculating about this for a while. They're going to find technology. They're going to find UFOs. They're going to find discs. They're going to find ancient buried technology that was buried during the flood of Noah. And they're going to say, hey, guess what? This stuff proves that your religion is wrong. It proves the Bible wrong. It proves Christianity wrong. It proves whatever wrong, because how could it exist in your book when it doesn't talk about it? Well, it actually kind of does. You just kind of have to look a little bit deeper. So what is the second step? The second step will be the big space show in the sky. The second step in the NASA Bluebeam project involves a gigantic space show with 3-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projections of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to the predominating regional national religious faith. This is God's voice, and it will be speaking in all languages. In order to understand that, we must first study various secret services and the research that they've done in the past 25 years, such as the Soviets. They have perfected advanced computers and even exported them, and they fed them with minute physiological particulars based on their studies of the anatomy and electromechanical composition of the human body. in the studies of the electrical, chemical, biological properties of the human brains. These computers were fed with the languages of all human cultures and their meanings worldwide. The dialects of all cultures have been fed into the computer from satellite transmissions. They began to feed these computers with objective programs like the one for the new Messiah. It also seems that the New World Order and the people behind it will resort to methods to make people end their lives within the human society by allocating electronic wavelengths for every person in every society and culture to introduce thoughts of ending it all. So the person, if they don't comply with the dictates of the New World Order, they will use this technology on them. Basically saying they gather all this biometric data on people, right? And they're going to curate specific ELF waves to that specific person to make them go along. Let's say they don't believe what's happening or they're not going along with the plan. They're going to, use alternate methods to make them go along with the plan. There are two different aspects of step 2. The first is the quote unquote space show. Where does the space show come from? The space show has holographic images that will be used in a simulation of the ending, during which all nations will be shown scenes that will be the fulfillment of that which they desire to verify the prophecies and adversarial events. These will be projected from satellites onto the sodium layer above about 60 miles above the Earth. We will see tests every once in a while, and these are the so-called UFOs and flying saucer sightings. So what he's saying is the satellites are projecting these images onto the sodium layer from space, onto the Earth from satellites, right? And this is what UFOs are, is what he's saying. Now, there might be some truth to that, but you can't say that all UFOs are just holograms. Some of them, sure, maybe. And in this scenario where they're causing mass panic, projecting UFO invasions all over the world, yeah, maybe. But as far as every single UFO sighting being this, I really don't believe that. But let's continue reading. The result of these deliberately staged events will be to show the world the new Christ, the Antichrist, the new Messiah, the Maitreya, for the immediate implementation of the new world religion. Enough truth will be foisted upon the unsuspecting world to hook them into the lie. Even the most learned people will be deceived. The project has perfected the ability for some devices that people refer to as tractor beams to lift up enormous numbers of people as in a rapture and whisk entire groups of people into Never Never Land. We see tests of this device in the abductions of humans by those mysterious little gray aliens who snatch people out of their beds through their windows into waiting motherships. The calculated resistance to the universal religion and the new Messiah and the ensuing holy wars will result in the loss of human life on a scale never imagined before in all of human history. The Bluebeam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old, as major an event as that which occurred 2,000 years ago. I think he's talking about Jesus Christ. So they're going to be faking the return of Jesus Christ. In principle, it will make use of the skies as a movie screen on the sodium layer about 60 miles up. As space-based laser-generating satellites project simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and every dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspects of the New World Order and its deception and seduction on a massive scale. Computers will coordinate with the satellite software already in place, and they will run the Sky Show. Holographic images are based on nearly identical signals combining to produce an image or hologram with deep perspective to ELF, VLF, and LF waves and optical phenomenon. Specifically, the show will consist of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different satellite, each according to the specific national or regional religion. Not a single area will be excluded, with computer animation and sounds appearing to emanate from the very depths of space. Astonished ardent followers of various creeds will witness their own messiahs return with lifelike reality. It kind of reminds me of the those strange sounds from the sky. Remember that from 2012? All those trumpet sounds people were hearing coming from space, basically coming from the sky, all these strange trumpet sounds, and there was never any explanation to it. I mean, kind of sounds like that, but there was no visuals with the strange sounds. It was just the sounds. But this is saying that they can use visuals and sounds together to produce the desired effect. So pretty interesting. It goes on to say the projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, etc. will merge into one after correct explanations of the great mysteries and revelations have been disclosed. This one God will in fact be the Antichrist, who will explain the various scriptures have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, and that religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother and nation against nation. Therefore, old religions must be abolished to make way for the new age world religion, representing the one God Antichrist they see before them. Naturally,
Revolutionary salute to our brother William 10 for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. Absolutely appreciate the love, family. Salute to you. Oh, I can't see the rest of your last name. Salute, family. Appreciate the love.
This stage falsification will result in dissolved social and religious disorder on a grand scale. Each nation blaming the other for the deception, setting loose millions of programmed religious fanatics through the demonic possession on a scale never witnessed before. In addition, this event will occur at a time of profound worldwide political anarchy during some worldwide catastrophe. The United Nations even plans now to use Beethoven's Song of Joy as the anthem for the introduction of the New World religion. If we put this space show in parallel with the Star Wars program, we get this. Combination of the electromagnetic radiation and hypnosis have also been the subject of intense research. In 1974, for instance, researcher G.F. Shapatis said in one of his research proposals that, quote, in this investigation, it will be shown that the spoken words of the hypnotist may also be converted by electronic energy directly into the subconscious part of the human brain without employing any mechanical device for receiving, transcoding, or understanding the message, and without the person exposed to such influence having a chance to control the information input consciously. It may be expected that rationalized behavior will be considered to have been taken out of their own free will, end quote. So apparently this researcher said that they'll be able to beam these things into people's heads, then people won't even know where it's coming from. And it's not going to be, and it will be separated from their own free will. So they're not going to realize that it's going to be an outside, technology beaming into the head, making them think a certain way. They're going to think it emanates from within themselves, thus making them believe it's God. Interesting. Anyone investigating so-called channeling phenomenon right now would be wise to take this area of research into consideration. It will be noted that those who think of themselves as channelers has escalated rapidly since this type of research was conducted. It's uncanny how similar their messages are. Despite which entity they claim to have the source of divine guidance, it would suggest that any individual considering the credibility of channeled information should be discerning and critically evaluate where the messages they're receiving originates from, and if the messages are specifically beneficial to the New World Order. Oh, absolutely. All these channeled messages, they all say the same thing. They all say basically what this book is saying, that Jesus is wrong and that everybody's one and everybody needs to come together for a one world religion, one world government, one world spirituality, because our old ways are incorrect. That's all the channelers, they all say the same thing. And that's suspicious, if you ask. And that just proves everything, if you ask me. Because a lot of times when you bring up Jesus Christ to these channelers, they get scared because every knee will bow to the Lord. And even these channelers know that whatever spirit they're talking to is afraid of Jesus. That's why when you bring up Jesus to, psychics and people like that, they always freak out. They get scared because something inside of them, the spirit that's talking to them, starts to tremble. And they want to get out of there as fast as they can. That's why they don't like Jesus, because they are under his authority. So let's continue reading the book. The Sydney Morning Newspaper published an item on March 21st, 1983, which announced that the Soviets were invading the human mind, the article having been submitted to the foreign editor by Dr. Nathan Abujani, assistant professor in the Facility of Agriculture in Asia. It's worth quoting the article at length, even though his grammar is a little odd. The article relates to the Soviets who created a supercomputer we were discussing earlier, and which is really important because these types of computers can be run through satellites and through space. The computers were fed with all sorts of different languages. They're meeting the dialect of the languages, and all the people were fed to the computers with objective programs. But we are no longer talking about the Soviets. We're talking about the United Nations, the minions of the New World Order, who are feeding these computers the necessary information. The editor of the column in which the article appeared even states that the piece made points too important to ignore. I think it's possible that the persons who have created this mega mind control program could sell the software to an organization and not even be aware that the client might just use the program and data to enslave all of mankind. Wow. Just imagine how far they had advanced since that article was published. Well, think about how far they'd advanced since this book was published, right? It's insane. The guy who wrote this book probably had no conception. He couldn't conceive of the technology that we're at now. He wouldn't even be able to understand what AI is and all these systems that are being put in place right now. Okay, because you know that the AI that we have now, all these things, all these tools that people use is nothing. The real AI, the ones that the governments are using, the ones that are still locked away on these servers somewhere, vastly outperform the ones that we have available to us, right? So, artificial thought and communication. The advancement of techniques propel us towards the third step in Bluebeam project that goes along with the telepathic and electronically augmented two-way communications where ELF, VLF, and LF waves will reach each person from within his or her own mind, convincing them that their own God is speaking to them from the very depths of their soul. Such rays from satellites are fed from the memories of computers that have stored massive data about every human on Earth and their languages. The rays will then interlace with their natural thinking to form what we call diffused artificial thought. That kind of technology goes into the 1970s and the 1980s, as well as the 1990s, where research had been performed where the human brain had been compared to the computer. Information is fed in, it's processed, it's integrated, then a response is formulated and acted upon. The mind controllers manipulate this information in the same way that a computer for grammar manipulation manipulates information. In January 1991, the University of Arizona hosted a conference entitled the NATO Advanced Research Workshop on Current and Emergent Phenomena and Biomolecular Systems. What does that mean exactly? It means this. We refer to one paper that was delivered at the conference which stands out for its different attitude towards the development under discussion at that time. It was, in effect, a protest and a chilling warning to the attending scientists about the potential abuse of their research findings. Their findings, of course, stated that the United States has already developed communications equipment which can make the blind see, make the deaf hear, and make the lame walk. It can relieve the terminally ill from pain without the use of drugs or surgery. I'm not talking about science fiction. A man might retain his use of all his faculties right up until the moment of his death. This communications equipment depends on a completely new way of looking at the human brain and neuromuscular systems and radiation pulses at ultra low frequencies. Some of this equipment is now operational within the CIA and the FBI. It will never be used to make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk because it is central to domestic political agenda and foreign policy of George Bush and his puppet masters of the New World Order. Domestically, the new communications equipment is being used to torture and murder people who match profiles imagined to be some sort of terrorist, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations or promote tolerance and peace and development in Central America, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations who oppose development and deployment of nuclear weapons, and to create a race of slave or what is called a Manchurian candidate. Overseas experimentations are taking place on hostages held by the United States and Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, Finland, France. Additionally, there have been long series of bizarre ending of people's lives, self-removal among British computer scientists, all of whom had some connection to the US Navy. What is possible to ask before such a psychology of terror is this: would any government, corporation, or psychiatrist willfully promote such horror today? The answer is quite obviously yes. The government agencies and the corporations that work with them towards a new world order are prepared to promote anything that will help them achieve their objective goal of total social control. As for the question of why, For one thing, if you terrify the public and you make them fear for their safety, they will allow you to implement any draconian law, disarm them. Secondly, it promotes the decay of the present democratic forms of political systems and leads societies to search for an alternative method of political ideology. Of course, the alternative has already been planned. It's called the New World Order, and it will not have your safety or interests at heart. As George Bush said, read my lips. Fear has always been used by a powerful elite to control and subjugate the masses. The old maxim of divide and conquer is being played out to the limit worldwide to ensure that everybody is frightened for their personal safety, to be suspicious of everybody else. This too is mind control. Real quick. Yeah, that sounds like extreme. It sounds like it's happening to the extreme today. Everybody's divided, everybody's conquered. We even have Christians fighting each other over, what the shape of the earth is. Christians fighting each other over, all these things, what the right denomination is. Oh, this is the right denomination. This is the right denomination. Everybody else is going to hell except for me. People are fighting over the dumbest things. The political divide has never been greater than it is right now. And, divide and conquer has worked. This country is divided. And I can't speak for the rest of the world, but from what I see, yeah, divide and conquer has absolutely worked. We have been conquered already. So they don't even need to implement these measures anymore. We've already been divided. We've already been conquered. But let's continue reading. To go further in this regard, the new technology, which is at the base of the NASA Bluebeam project, we have to consider this statement by psychologist James McConnell, which was published in the 1970s issue of Psychology Today. He said, quote, "The day has come when we can combine sensory deprivation with drug hypnosis and astute manipulation of reward and punishment to gain almost absolute control over an individual's behavior. It should be then possible to achieve a very rapid and highly effective type of positive brainwashing that would allow us to make dramatic changes in a person's behavior or personality," end quote. Think about that on a large scale. Is that what they're doing to us? Are they manipulating our behavior and personality through social media, through all these signals, these broadcasting waves? I don't know, through our cell phones. Who knows? Seems like it though, right? When we talked before about that kind of ray in the telepathic and electronically augmented communication, the kind of rays that are fed from the memories of the computers, which store massive data about humans, human language, and dialects. And we said that people will be reached from within, making each person believe that his or her own God is speaking with them directly from within his or her own soul. We refer to that kind of technology and that kind of thinking in the same way that that psychologist was espousing. That is, we should be trained from birth that we should all do what society wants us to do rather than what we want to do for ourselves. That's because we have the technology to do it. No one should now be allowed to have their own individual personality. This statement and these ideas are important because it is the basic teaching of the United Nations that no one owns his or her own personality. And now, if you take that one step further and you look at what's was being said by the WEF, how we will own nothing and be happy, it sounds like it's about the same thing. They're still pushing these boundaries farther and farther. The NASA Bluebeam project is the prime directive for the New World Order's absolute control over the populations of the entire Earth. I would suggest that you investigate this information carefully before dismissing it as fanatic lunacy. If we go further in the different reports we have presented, we find that mind control operations and technology include transmitters that broadcast at the same frequency as the human nervous system. The third step, telepathic electronic two-way communication. The third step in the NASA Bluebeam project is called the telepathic electronic two-way communication. Lieutenant Colonel John Alexander's article continues, quote, "If it is possible to feed artificial thought into the multigenic field via satellite, the mind control of the entire planet is now possible. An individual's only resistance would be to completely question the motivation behind his or her own thoughts and not act upon the thoughts which they consider to be outside their own ideological or religious and moral boundaries." Interesting. So he's saying if you have a thought or a feeling that is somehow outside your own moral boundaries, discount it because it's not coming from you. That makes sense. Once again, it is wise to consider how television, advertising, modern education, and various types of social pressure are used to manipulate those boundaries. It has been reported by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander, who said in a summary of his military review article, quote, "The information on those kinds of technologies presented here would be considered by some to be ridiculous since it does not conform to their view of reality. But some people still believe the world is flat." Now, this means a lot because if people do not believe this kind of technology is possible or that it's science fiction, those people put themselves in great jeopardy because on the night when those 1,000 stars will shine from space, during the night when the new Messiah will be presented to the world, they will not be prepared and will have no time to prepare to save themselves from that kind of technology. They don't believe it's true, so they won't take the time to prepare and they will fall victim to it. Fourth step, universal supernatural manifestations via electronics. The fourth step concerns the universal supernatural manifestations with electronic means. It contains 3 different orientations. One is to make mankind believe that an alien invasion is about to occur at every major city on Earth in order to provoke each major nation to use its nuclear weapons in order to strike back. This way, the United Nations Court will require that all those nations which launch nuclear weapons will have to be disarmed when the invasion is shown to be false. And how will the United Nations know that the invasion was false? Well, they staged it, of course. The second is to make Christians believe that the rapture is going to occur with the supposed divine intervention of alien off-world civilizations coming to rescue the earthlings from savage and merciless demons. The goal is to dispose of all significant opposition to the implementation of the NWO in one major stroke. Actually, within hours of the beginning of the Sky Show. So they're going to put on the Sky Show, and within hours, they're going to nuke the whole world, and then they're going to remove and fake rapture all the Christians. Interesting. So that there's not going to be any opposition to it. The third orientation in the fourth step is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves used at the time will allow supernatural forces, quote unquote supernatural forces, to travel through optical fibers, coax cables, lasers, electrical equipment, phone lines in order to penetrate everyone at once through their major appliances. And now everybody's got the phones and everything on them. It seems like it would be easier to do if this were possible. Embedded chips will already be in place. Well, like what I was just saying with the phones, all the chips in the phones, who knows? The goal of this deals with the global satanic ghosts that will be projected all around the world in order to push all populations to the edge of hysteria and madness, to drown them in a wave of life-ending ideas and permanent psychological disorders. After the night of the 1,000 stars, worldwide populations will be ready for the new Messiah to reestablish order and peace at any cost, even at the cost of freedom. Phasing out cash and independence. The techniques used in the fourth step is exactly the same as the techniques used in the past to force people to accept certain ideas. The same techniques will be used by the United Nations to implement the New World Religion and the New World Order. A lot of people will ask when this is going to happen and how will they accomplish the visions of the night of 1,000 stars, and what are the events that will point to when these days begin. According to the many reports we have received, we believe it will begin with some kind of worldwide economic disaster. Not a complete crash, but enough to allow them to introduce a new kind of in-between currency. Before they introduce their electronic cash to replace all paper or plastic money, the in-between currency will be used to force anybody with savings to spend or turn in their cash because they understand that people will have money and the money won't be worth anything. So if everybody's broken, nobody has any money because the money's not worth anything anymore, well, how can anybody fund a war? All paper currency will cease to exist, and this is one of the first signs. But to implement this worldwide electronic money system, everybody in the world who might have money in the future will have to have a way to transfer money electronically. To prevent any kind of independence, the NWO will already implement microchips and tracking systems on wild animals and fish so that people won't be able to sustain themselves by hunting and fishing and gathering from the land. If they try, they will be tracked down by satellites and they will be hunted down and imprisoned. The NWO is already changing the laws of the nations to make everybody dependent on single food sources. They are changing laws about religion and psychiatric disorders in order to identify anybody who is potentially threatening to the NWO. Those who are found defective will be sent to the eradication camps, where their organs will be taken out and harvested to the highest bidders. Well, that doesn't sound nice. Those who are not killed will be used as slave labor and used in medical experiments. The goal of the dictatorship is to control everyone, everywhere on the planet ruthlessly, without exception. That's why all this technology is being introduced everywhere. The technology for the control of the people is now being implemented. The technology of the 1940s and 50s was used to help the people and make an easier, productive life. This new technology is designed and built to track you, to track people, and to track down and control people everywhere. This technology is being manufactured for specific purposes, and to refuse to see and recognize that purpose, which is to enslave the entire populations of the world, is to deny the emergence of the antichrist and the establishment of the new world order, the one world religion and government. If you cannot see, you cannot learn. If you cannot understand, then you and your family and your friends might just succumb to the fires in the crematoria that have already been built in every state and every major city on earth, built to deal with you. Well, the end. That's it. So, interesting, huh? Project Bluebeam, what do you guys think about this? I mean, there's a lot of things that are plausible that make sense. We know a lot of the technology exists. All the steps, the technology is there, especially what he was saying about the end and the digital currencies. Well, we all know about that stuff. This is the only time in history in which a digital currency could replace everything in the world and make a one world currency digitally on blockchain, right? That's possible. But, I don't know, man. It's a interesting book. It really is. There's a lot of plausible ideas in here. So whether or not this guy got his ideas from some classified sources, as he claims, or if he just made them up, I'm not sure. But this is the book, and I want to know what you think. So do you believe this book is true, or do you believe that this guy just made everything up? Please put it in the comment section below and, tell everybody your opinion. Let us know how you feel about this. And, if this is what
Give me 1 second. On what they believe in. We know what the religion.
Mr. Trump could promise to use his building skills to build a temple.
We'll all see the building of the third temple in Jerusalem very soon. And we honor our President Trump for what he has done for Jerusalem and for the Jewish people.
So we have the priest, we have the red heifer, we have the land, and we have everything ready.
Ideas are becoming a reality.
Temple Institute and the Sanhedrin have been actively preparing for the construction of the third temple in Jerusalem. In this video, you can see they're discussing the location where to build the third temple. Some Jewish rabbis suggest building the third temple next to the Dome of the Rock. This is well supported by Israel Minister of Defense saying a synagogue should be built next to Al-Aqsa Mosque so that the Jews can also pray, not just Muslim. But the Temple Institute officials who have been preparing the third temple construction believe that the third temple must be built where the first and the second temple once stood. That is exactly on the Temple Mount. Jews have been digging tunnels under the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound since the early 1980s to find remains of the second temple and prepare for the third temple. They've dug 64 tunnels, with many on the western side, putting the mosque at risk of collapse. This has really worried Muslims and international observers, who fear that continued digging could cause the mosque to collapse. Jews believe that if they were allowed, they could build the third temple in less than a month. So, why haven't they started? The simple reason is that it's not safe and secure. They fear that if they build it now, it could be destroyed again, just like the first and second temples. They want the third temple to last forever. But before that, they need to eliminate any threats to the Jewish state and the temple. Right now, they're fighting for their rights and their temple. Listen to this army explain their wishes and ambitions.
And one day our true leader will come and we'll be united as a whole Jewish nation so we can rebuild the Beit HaMikdash.
The current Israeli government, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has shown strong interest in building the third temple. Although the official policy is to maintain the status quo, several officials, including Netanyahu, have expressed support for the idea. This is part of a broader effort to assert Israeli control over Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. There's speculation that Trump could take over the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and turn it into an international site. Some believe Trump could be the one to make the third temple a reality. Just wait and see, as we might be witnessing the second coming of Donald Trump.
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States.
Based on the current situation, many believe that Trump will set the first stone for the third temple construction. You know, the Jews believe that whoever built the third temple, he is the Messiah. That is why Jews never believe in Jesus as Messiah, because he failed to build the third temple.
Presented to President Donald J. Trump for his extraordinary and heroic efforts. I like that very much.
Will Trump be Jewish Messiah or even be the king of the Jews?
So taking America into a recession, is it worth it? And do Americans need to back that up?
The fake news, of which many of you are members, is trying to convince the public to have a recession. Let's have a recession. The United States is doing phenomenally well. But one thing I have to do is economically take on China, because China has been ripping us off for many years. President Clinton, President Bush, and President Obama and others should have done this long before me. My life would be much easier, although I enjoy doing it, but my life would be much easier if I just said, let China continue to rip off the United States, all right? It'd be much easier, but I can't do that. We are winning against China. They've lost 2.5 million jobs in a very short period of time. They want to make a deal. It's got to be a deal that's good for the United States. Where they want to make a deal, probably we will make a deal. But if I didn't do that, and I'm not doing this, somebody said it's Trump's trade war. This isn't my trade war. This is a trade war that should have taken place a long time ago by a lot of other presidents. Over the last 5 or 6 years, China's made $500 billion. 500 billion, ripped it out of the United States. And not only that, if you take a look, intellectual property theft, add that to it, and add a lot of other things to it. So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to do it.
As this world continues to move towards its goals, it's important that certain truths are dealt with. We live in a world full of lies and deceptions. Too many subjects that people either wish to avoid and others keep hidden from the masses. We are reactive, not proactive. Most of us are unable to think for ourselves, and we are guided by the news and events that we believe are the truth, but they are in fact just agendas that are leading us towards a goal of a new world. Here's the problem, and what I don't think most people are considering. Now, ignoring the people that pay no mind to conspiracy theories, ignoring those that are very much led by the media no matter what we tell them, leaving those people out of it, which is a large part of our civilization, there is another large part of our population that are expecting this conspiracy of a new world. People that have followed men like Alex Jones for decades. People that were fighting some fight against the deep state before Trump took office the first time. There are those that recognize there is a conspiracy, and there are those that are expecting the agenda for this new world to come. And because they are expecting it, most of them, they feel that they will not fall for it once the agenda comes out. There are also many that have heard about the mark of the beast before they knew anything else about the Bible. that you won't be able to buy or sell anything without taking the mark of the Antichrist. There is a large majority in this world that are expecting these things, yes. But yet, we know Bible prophecy is real. And we also know that a majority of people today will be attached to the satanic agendas that are coming. The only thing we don't know is how. None of us are fortune tellers. None of us can see in the future. We can't look in some crystal ball. We just know about what our Father prophesied in his word. And for others who really study, we also know what the other satanic side is plotting based on what they believe in. We know what the religions of the world are waiting for based upon understanding their doctrines. And when we put all that information together, although you can't see into the future and know exactly what will transpire, you can, however, have a pretty good idea of what to expect. And this is knowledge and understanding that is not amongst the masses, which is why most people will fall for the agendas that are coming. I recently made a video discussing Freemasonry. And although many people were able to grasp what I was presenting, there were many that still did not understand why I was bringing the topic up for discussion. The reason why that topic was discussed is because of this overall topic. It's important to understand Freemasons and their connection to Solomon's Temple. Some of their Masonic goals are to rebuild Solomon's Temple and to save humanity through their coming Messiah. The problem is they're saving humanity from our Father, Yahuwah. That's what they believe. And you see, as we discuss this topic, if you don't really understand the Masonic influence behind the scenes in this world and what it means and what they're planning to do, you would not really understand what is happening right in front of you. Right now, the world is moving aggressively towards this goal, but it cannot be fully recognized yet. As the agendas begin to come together, it seems that there is a major deception that is taking place that seems the majority of the world will fall for, and that has to do with Donald Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is seeming to be who the world will want to believe is the Antichrist, and it looks like Elon Musk as the false prophet. That's how it looks right now. Based on how the world agendas are coming together, it seems very likely that Donald Trump will be looked at as the Antichrist. But what most don't recognize is that he is the false Antichrist that will pave the way for the true Antichrist, the lawless one that's coming. I've spoken about this in other videos after Donald Trump got reelected. But as things are coming together, I think it's important that I make this clear so that there is some understanding and a proper perspective given about what is happening, because most people in the world are not giving it right now. See, here's the problem. What will happen is that because many people are told to look one way, when the full agenda is put forth, many will be led into the arms of the real Antichrist, the real lawless one. You must understand that this is all by design. This is the plan. Right now, it looks like Trump will be doing deals that will lead to the rebuilding of Solomon's Temple. But I believe after all that's settled, it will also cause war and worldwide chaos. And when this happens, many will be led into the arms of the enemy. It's important that you keep a perspective and a sound mind of what it is that you're seeing happening right before you. So I want to make sure I cover this now and make sure you understand that Donald Trump is not the beast of Revelation. He is not the lawless one. Donald Trump is not the Antichrist. Let's begin. Okay, so let me first explain what the issue is. Donald Trump is very clearly moving in the direction that many people will want to say that he is the Antichrist. First off, he was embraced by the world since he was elected and seen by many people around the world as a man that was going to be a problem solver. Many people in the world were embracing him as such. Also, back when he first came in office during his first term, he made a major move relocating the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and he declared Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. It was unprecedented.
The United States finally and officially recognized Jerusalem as the true capital of Israel. Today, we follow through on this recognition and open our embassy in the historic and sacred land of Jerusalem. And we're opening it many, many years ahead of schedule. As I said in December, our greatest hope is for peace. The United States remains fully committed to facilitating a lasting peace agreement, and we continue to support the status quo at Jerusalem's holy sites, including at the Temple Mount, also known as Haram al-Sharif. This city and its entire nation is a testament to the unbreakable spirit of the Jewish people. The United States will always be a great friend of Israel and a partner in the cause of freedom and peace.
It was you that gave a miraculous victory in 1967 when Jerusalem was reopened to worshipers of all faith. Jerusalem is the city of God. Jerusalem is the heartbeat of Israel. Jerusalem is where Abraham placed his son on the altar of the Temple Mount and became the father of many nations. We thank you, O Lord, for President Donald Trump's courage in acknowledging to the world a truth established 3,000 years ago, that Jerusalem is and always shall be the eternal capital of the Jewish people. And because of that courage of our president, we gather here today to consecrate the ground upon which the United States Embassy will stand, reminding the dictators of the world that America and Israel are forever united.
In Jerusalem, King David established our capital 3,000 years ago. In Jerusalem, King Solomon built our temple, which stood for many centuries. In Jerusalem, Jewish exiles from Babylon rebuilt the temple, which stood for many more centuries. In Jerusalem, the Maccabees rededicated that temple and restored Jewish sovereignty in this land. And it was here in Jerusalem, some 2,000 years later, that the soldiers of Israel spoke three immortal words: Har Habayit Be'adenu, the Temple Mount is in our hands. Words that lifted the spirit of the entire nation. We are in Jerusalem and we are here to stay.
Right now, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calls Donald Trump Israel's best friend that it ever has had in the White House, as Trump supports Israel.
President Trump for his unwavering support for Israel. During my recent visit to Washington, I said that Donald Trump is the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And President Trump shows that friendship each and every day. He has shown it through his visionary plan for Gaza. This is a plan which Israel fully supports. He's shown it by sending us all the munitions that were being held up. This way, he's giving Israel the tools we need to finish the job against Iran's terror axis. And he has shown it by fully backing Israel and putting the pressure to release the hostages where it truly belongs, on Hamas. Israel has accepted President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff's plan to extend the temporary ceasefire by 50 days. During that time, we can discuss the conditions for a permanent ceasefire that will end the war in Gaza.
Also after that, after being a part of the peace negotiations with Israel and Gaza, he then declared that the United States would take part in the rebuilding of Gaza, diving into world problems no one else would dare address. What's also interesting is that his Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, had a recently resurfaced speech that he gave at the Arush Shiva conference in Jerusalem, again back in 2018 during Trump's first term. He said this.
And what I love about this group is the eternal optimism in the belief of the Jewish people, of the scripture, of this land, and the understanding that for years, if not this year in Jerusalem, then next year in Jerusalem, but we are here in Jerusalem. And today, Jennifer and I and others had a chance to go see the Western Wall of the Temple Mount, the Western Wall tunnels, so much of the old city. And as you stand there, you can't help but behold the miracle before you. And it got me thinking about another miracle that I hope all of you don't see too far away. Because 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a miracle, 1967 was a miracle, 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible. I don't know how it would happen. You don't know how it would happen, but I know that it could happen. That's all I know.
This is what the current Secretary of Defense expects. And you know, shortly after Trump's inauguration, the Jerusalem Post, it wrote, Trump's win sparks hope for Jewish sovereignty on Temple. There is an expectation of this.
Welcome to Jerusalem. Welcome to Israel.
For a president now following the path of his predecessors in search of Middle East peace, Jerusalem may be a good place to start. A crossroads of faith and a sometimes violent flashpoint.
Jerusalem has been, will continue to be the center of the conflict. It has been the shortest spot on earth to heaven. It cannot be yours and not mine.
Israel's control of East Jerusalem, which it seized and occupied during the 1967 war, fuels simmering resentment among Palestinians, watching and waiting what a new American president might bring.
Do you think he understands the issues?
No.
To be honest, no.
Here, just a short walk from one of Islam's holiest places, the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Jewish faithful pray at the Western Wall, the remains of a sacred temple.
There's no music and there's no gold and there's no design. It's simply people pouring out their hearts.
Visited by President Trump today.
That is an insight that President Trump has by coming here to the holy places, understanding that religion is a part of the problem, but it could be a part of the solution.
American presidents have come and gone here with no peace deal, and it's not lost on anyone that this president flew into town carrying extra baggage.
He's got a lot of controversy right now. Do you think that hurts his ability to be effective here?
Of course, when you come from a country where people are standing up and say, resist the president position, resist the president policy. We don't want racism. We don't want divided country. We want unity. We want harmony.
Ultimately, it won't be only America's problem to help solve, and Israelis and Palestinians must ask themselves whether any deal is better than no deal.
In Jerusalem, people believe that only one thing is perfect. That's God. Here, down here, nothing is perfect. Also, peace is not perfect.
A troubled city, but one that continues to inspire people of many faiths. That's going to do it for us on this Monday night from Jerusalem. We'll see you back here tomorrow from New York.
And you see, Trump is right now working to negotiate peace. This is what he declared in his inauguration speech.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier.
He is appearing to negotiate deals that are leading to a deal in the Middle East with Israel, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. And this is what is happening right now. And if it all goes as it seems, it will lead to a deal that will lead to the rebuilding of the temple. And if that does occur, it's very clear that everyone who is expecting this will look at Donald Trump as the antichrist, because in the mainstream, this is what we're told the antichrist will do. We are seeing very clear signs that this is what is happening in the world right now. Now, I believe that Donald Trump will only be used as the catalyst and reason for the temple to be rebuilt. He's playing a very high role in Satanism being the scapegoat. It could be that the temple will be built based upon his influence, and then we should expect war to start. I believe that they just need the right justification around the world for the temple to be rebuilt. But in its completion, the temple will not be built for Donald Trump, though the world will believe that based upon propaganda. Let me explain my reasoning why I believe this. Understand, there is an agenda that most people are not aware of, and therefore, when it comes about, most people will not be ready, and this is how Christians will be led to the mark. I made a video when I discussed the end times belief of all the major world religions, and if you understand the world religions, including Christianity, they are all expecting a figure that we would call the Antichrist. The world is waiting for a Messiah. Now, with understanding that, one of the world religions I would like to focus on is Islam, because we know that Allah is not the God of the Bible. And therefore, whatever it is that they are waiting for, we know that it is all a part of the agenda in regards to the now. Whatever they are waiting for has nothing to do with what we are waiting for biblically. You see, the Muslims, they are waiting for their Mahdi, the second coming of Jesus. But what is not really understood is that the Muslims are also waiting for the Antichrist, who they refer to as the Dajjal. And because many don't understand this, this is how many will fall to the delusion. Let me discuss it. In some of the Islamic writings, some of the Hadith collections, they list traditions on the minor signs that signal the end. All the collections depict the future as wrought with difficulties. They believe that the Muslim community will break into a chaotic mass of conflicting sects. As faith, morality, and honesty, human decency, and acceptable generational and gender relations, political accountability, justice, and public civility fall by the wayside, the whole fabric of the Muslim community will be rent asunder. Sedition follows sedition until the living envy the dead. Eventually, according to apocalyptic hadith, God sends a final seducer in the person of the Antichrist, Al-Dajjal, the impostor, or Al-Masih, Al-Dajjal, the false Messiah, who is either a beast, a monster, or a human figure. God also sends the world its redeemer in the person of the Mahdi. So understand, they are waiting for the Al-Dajjal, the false Messiah. According to the Britannica, the Al-Dajjal is a false messianic figure who will come forth before the end of time. After a reign of 40 days or 40 years, he'll be destroyed by Christ, or the Mahdi, rightly guided one, or both, and the world will submit to God. So let's note it. This can be confusing, so I want you to really pay attention. We know that Islam is waiting for a Messiah, who they refer to as the Mahdi, or the second coming of Jesus. But we know this figure to be the biblical Antichrist, the lawless one. Now, here's the thing. Before this lawless one, who they think is the Mahdi, before this false Messiah comes, they are waiting for a false Messiah that their true Messiah will defeat. So in our reality, in our truth, before their false Messiah comes, with who they call the Mahdi, they are waiting for a false Antichrist that their false Messiah, the Mahdi, will defeat. I hope that's clear. You have to follow it, understanding that their religion leads to the true Antichrist. So let me help you understand. What should be understood is that there is an expectation for an antagonist figure, a coming adversary that will be an enemy of the world, that will come upon this world and have great power. And to Islam, he will be looked at as the Antichrist, or the Dajjal. And basically, he will be the enemy of this world and will bring great conflict. This is important to understand because of what this implies, because you have to understand what comes after. In Islam, what comes after the Dajjal? Yes, the second coming of Jesus, the Mahdi. Please follow this. Islam is a faith that is not attached to the truth of the biblical scriptures. If you don't currently understand this, then it's highly probable that you will be a part of the one world religion that will come. But if you understand that Islam is just another world religion that leads to the beast, then understanding their prophecies and what they're waiting for can help you understand what you should be expecting in the secular world away from the truth. This is all a part of the lies and religion that is led and controlled by Satan that leads the world to him. It has nothing to do with biblical truth. It's just how we get to what is prophesied in the scriptures. These people, they are expecting the Dajjal. Now, please understand what they feel is that their Dajjal is our biblical Antichrist. They believe that their Dajjal is the Antichrist in Christianity. And that's why they believe that all these religions are the same. And that is why you won't hear a lot of mainstream teaching about this that teaches this differently, because this is the overall thought in this world, because they are combining religions. They believe that their Dajjal is the Antichrist in Christianity. And maybe it's true because Christianity is another false religion. But their Dajjal is not the biblical Antichrist. It's not the biblical lawless one. But according to their religion, it's the same figure. Now, because of that, what happens is that according to their faith, they have a Messiah that will come and he will defeat the Dajjal. In Islamic end times view, the messianic figure known as the Mahdi, which in Arabic means the guided one, very similar to the word Mashiach in Hebrew for anointed one, it is said that the Mahdi will appear before the day of judgment. In Islam, it is said that the Mahdi will appear before the day of judgment. The Messiah and Imam and Mahdi are not two separate people. The Messiah who will come as the second coming of Jesus will also carry with him the title of Imam Mahdi. Islam is literally waiting for a second coming of Jesus. In Islam, Al-Mahdi, the Messiah, is believed to hold the task of establishing the truth and fighting against oppression. He is prophesied to become a just king and to reestablish justice, peace, and monotheism in the world. So please follow this. Because they are merging religions, they want us to believe that this second coming is the same Messiah that we are waiting for, but it is not. The Mahdi is the figure that we know to be the lawless one, the antichrist. Remember this. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. And for this reason, Elohim will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. The 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 9 through 12. You see, here's the truth. This is what you need to understand biblically. The second coming of our Messiah, when he comes back from heaven, comes out from the clouds, this comes after the deception of this false Messiah, this Mahdi, who we know as the Antichrist. When our Messiah, Yahusha, when he comes, he's coming for war, and that's a very one-sided one. He's not coming back to unite the world. He's coming back to restore his chosen people to their land and bring them back together. All those who repented and are born again will be received unto him. This isn't some unite the world, bring peace to the world mission. He's going to rule the rest of the nations with a rod of iron. And all the wicked who survived will be servants and handmaids to true Yasharel. That's what the Bible says. It's not the peace that the world is looking for. After Yahusha wins and sends the Antichrist, the Mahdi, and the false prophet in the lake of fire, he will reign 1,000 years in peace over true Yasharel, who has been restored back to Yah. That's the truth. That's what we're waiting for. But the lie that the world is waiting for is that there is an Antichrist coming who we know as the lawless one, according to the scripture. But his coming will be according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. And so you really have to understand what this is saying. There will be major lies, unrighteous deception, lying wonders, all according to the working of Satan, that will come about to bring about this biblical lawless one, who will be the Messiah to the Jewish people, the Mahdi to Islam, and he will be Jesus to Christians. Understand, there is a reason why the Negroes in America are being so trained to hate Donald Trump right now. They are being pushed through a complete agenda attached to the social gospel that will lead them to fighting against Donald Trump as well. I mean, many of the black people in America literally hate Donald Trump, and they really can't even articulate why. This is one reason why we know he won't actually be the actual Antichrist, because the system will be teaching these people to love him, but that's not the case. There are demographics in this world that are being trained to hate him. Donald Trump right now is being used to be the scapegoat that will bring about the rebuilding of the temple, that the real Antichrist will bring the world to worship him through. Donald Trump will be used as a scapegoat to bring the world together as they come against him. And it will come with the downfall of America, which will bring about the New World agenda. You see, in order for the New World to come, the old world has to be brought down. And this agenda of Trump is the catalyst for it. But we are right now in the beginning stages. They are building up the narrative for it all to come together. And if you're following it and attached to it, you will be led to the slaughter with the rest of them. Donald Trump is making major moves that is about multiple agendas. In the United States, he's bringing forth the fourth industrial revolution. Around the world, he's pushing the nations away from the dollar with the trade war. And geopolitically, he's making deals that are all about bringing about a deal that will allow the temple to be rebuilt, which is what it seems like we are moving towards right now. I mean, look at what he's done. He posted this video referring to Trump Gaza and showing a rebuilt land near the Riviera.
Donald's coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done.
Trump Gaza, #1.
We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
Very bizarre stuff showing that statue of him. But it's all about the agenda. And so what we see next? We saw the Arab states meeting and discussing the reconstruction, accepting an Egyptian plan for the region. But the US, they did not accept those plans. What I'm just explaining is that there is a movement in part of the world that has not seen this type of talk and discussion for a long time. And Trump is right in the middle of it. People forget that when Trump was in his first term, he brought about the Abraham Accords. That was all about bringing the Middle East together, representing Christian, Jewish, and Muslim unity in the region. This was all under Trump, and it was paused because of the agenda of COVID. And now it's back as they move forward with the agenda. What I'm trying to make clear is that the events seem to point to Donald Trump being labeled as the antichrist in the near future. This is what people are saying right now. And that means a great deal of pain for the world in the process. But I'm not focusing on that in this message. The point I want to make clear is that you must be sound-minded and not be drawn into the lies that actually lead to the beast. Now, I don't know what will come along with all this if my assumptions are right. I do hope that during this time, our Father moves to begin gathering us to him for the second Exodus. That's my hopes. But the thing is that even if it does not happen at that point, or even right now as people make content and begin to tie Donald Trump to being the Antichrist because of all these events, all that matters for us right now is that we must be sound-minded enough to understand that they do not know what they're talking about, and most of these people are leading the sheep to slaughter. Most people are not aware of the Dajjal expectation of Muslims, and therefore they don't understand that the Antichrist that comes first will be the decoy. It will be the scapegoat. So you can always ask someone, do they believe that the Dajjal and the Antichrist are the same thing, the same figure? And then you can understand where these people stand. This is how you can tell and discern it for yourself. The Islamic Dajjal, the scapegoat, the decoy, this will be the one used to bring the chaos. And because people are not aware of this, they will promote this madness that we're seeing and lead people into lies. And you can see a scenario that after the Dajjal is defeated and the world unites, you can see people calling the ruler that rises up and defeats the Dajjal. You can see them believing that he is the second coming, just like the Muslims believed according to their prophecy, and just like the Jewish people are waiting for, and exactly who the Christian church will unite around. This is very much an end times agenda. For me personally, I try to avoid talking about the future with things that I cannot prove at this time. But everything is so volatile and fluid, and content is coming up daily promoting this agenda by Christian content creators that lack discernment, and they trust Christian narratives. And so more and more people keep commenting that Donald Trump is the Antichrist. It's not true. Listen, I am not predicting the future, and it's possible that I am wrong about it all, and maybe there's another figure that rises that we don't see today. But to me, that's highly unlikely with the focus that they've given Donald Trump over the past decade, it seems. All these moves that are happening right now are pretty major, and they're all towards the Masonic goal of rebuilding the temple and bringing forth the Messiah of the world for all the faiths. This is what this presidency of Trump is all about. And the reason why Negroes have been trained to hate him is because they are being prepared to accept the real beast. Satan's agenda is to make the true people of Yasharel accept his son that's coming. This is the agenda. And that's why Negroes are being trained up to really hate Donald Trump, because they will accept the one who defeats him. You need to understand this. The true Antichrist, he will only be presented in a positive light from all in the media. Right now, you can't find a bad word about him. There will be no controversy. It's just respect. You will not see division when he comes, but just praise. Right now, people are allowed to hate Trump, and it's very specific. It's the liberal side who holds the values of the new world to come. I was not alive when the leader in Germany was in power, but it's funny how people are now going back to his speeches and rationalizing what he was saying. At some point, I saw Joe Rogan talking about it. You should imagine the MAGA Republicans as a modern example of the party you can't even speak about today, which is why they had Elon Musk making that gesture when Trump was first inaugurated. These people, these MAGA Republicans, they believe in Trump and they believe in his agenda, and they will support him while the liberals will fight. And it's so deceptive too, because the fights, they make sense, like only having the genders of male and female, how he says he's bringing God back into the country, a lot of conservative issues he's fighting for. And therefore, these people are being so deceived because he really feels like he's fighting for good. Their Christian nationalism is being used against them for judgment. This is their judgment. You see, if you really understand what is going on, you will understand that Trump is judgment. He is judgment on racist conservatives, and he's judgment on wicked liberals. The conservatives that look at our skin color and can't fathom that those who they call black people are actually the descendants of Yasharel, they are being led to fight for a leader who is guiding them to judgment. When his agenda is over, it will be the end of that conservative movement because he was the face of it. The same way you can't even mention the leader in Germany without backlash will be the same for the MAGAs. They are in judgment and they don't even know it. And the wicked liberals who hate Trump and they don't even really understand why, this is judgment for them as well, because they have been led in the social gospel and moved by topics surrounding civil rights. And their leaders have provoked them that their civil rights are being attacked. So they're going to fight until they get the leader who gives them the security and acceptance that they were looking for. And this is what the real Antichrist will bring and what he will be. And they will praise him and accept him for it. But he comes after all this other stuff. I just read this, but it's very important in this times. I truly recommend that you walk with the scripture in your minds as you watch these events unfold. Remember, the coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. And for this reason, Elohim will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, 9 through 12. Remember this scripture. Make it a day-by-day understanding of your life right now. Everything happening is about the coming of the lawless one. And this is according to the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders, unrighteous deception. And this is what it's all about and what's all in our faces. Believe me, if the majority is all saying the same thing, it's because they are all influenced. Pay attention to these Christian YouTube channels. And if you see all the channels echoing the same thing, please understand that they are leading the masses to the beast because they are attached to the religion of tares. Please do not follow them. Believing Trump is the Antichrist means that when the true one actually does come, they will not see it until it's too late. It's a part of the strong delusion. Compare it to just like believing the solution for COVID was the mark of the beast. People still believe this to this day. And saying this will make people accept the real mark because they think that they already got past that agenda. It is very important that you move with a sound mind in these days. Do not follow the pack. I have repeatedly said that they have a plan for Christians, and we are watching it unfold right before our eyes. Please stay vigilant and continue to prepare and live in the truth. Understand the games that are being played and do not fall victim to it. Use them as wake-up calls that make you more alert and more aware and ready for what is coming. Donald Trump will not be the true Antichrist, but he may be the Dajjal of Islam and the scapegoat in Satanism. This does not change anything more than knowing that the agenda does not end with him, but more so, he is the beginning of it all. Stay out of the strong delusion by attaching to our Father, and he will give you discernment and understanding that will allow you to walk in strength and conviction around this lost world. Get out of the strong delusion. If you focus on our Father and live in the truth, you will be ready for what's coming. So stay in the word and stop following the lies and these agendas of men. Stay vigilant and endure to the end. Prepare for the second Exodus and be blessed.
Country, 60,000 population.
All right, so real quick,
The so-called Amazonian cities.
Yes.
So London around the 16th century, 60,000 population. There were cities there.
There were enormous cities in the Amazon. This is another piece of the new evidence that's overwhelming the old ideas. Because the old idea was that there were no humans in the Amazon until about 1,000 years ago, that the Amazon, although it's a luxuriant rainforest, has poor soils, and that it was impossible for human beings in large numbers to survive there. We now know they did, and the reason we know they did is tragically because of the clearances of the Amazon. So much of the Amazon has been cut down, and in those areas that have been cut down, evidence of enormous cities has emerged, cities with populations of tens of thousands, bigger than London at the same time. And not only that, but evidence of high science, geometric geoglyphs on the Earth on a scale of hundreds of meters, squares, circles. They even performed the exercise that we attribute to the ancient Greeks of squaring the circle, a very sophisticated geometrical exercise. You can see that done on a scale of hundreds of meters in the Amazon.
So it's called Mysteries of Ancient South America by Harold T. Wilkins. All right. All right, so this book says right here, we're on page 92. All right. So as the reader may recall, the remarkable statement of the old bandeiristas that the statue of the Colossus he saw in the dead city had its hand outreached toward the north. When this manuscript first saw the light in the archives of a historical society in Rio de Janeiro in 1840, this reference to the north led a Copenhagen professor to suggest that the strange letters were runes, and that the Scandinavians had reached ancient South America. So impressed was the King of Denmark that he even detailed a warship to go to Rio and land a lieutenant who had orders to go up the country and find these statues and the dead city of Hyperborean suggestion. Here, one may recall that the Jew prophets Ezekiel and Isaiah, now listen to this, located the ancient paradise and Garden of Eden in the north. But if the reader glances at a map, he will see that north of Brazil corresponds to that very Amenti land, or land of the dead. Amenti from Egypt, halls of Amenti Thoth, paradise of the ancient Egyptians. And the Celt under another name of the Royal or High Atlantean Brazil, High Brazil. They're telling you north of Brazil, right? Which the people of the Pharaohs said lay to the west of the Nile. Moreover, there was a man who was 12th king in the calendar of the Mayas, and whose country Guatemala was a Nile. You hear this? And whose country what? Guatemala was a Nile, who corresponds closely with the Menes of ancient Egypt, who built the temple of Memphis and turned the course of the Nile of Egypt. All right, you hearing all this? Brazil, the old and mysterious, seems to be the ancient land, which was perhaps the cradle of the world's oldest civilization. Maybe 60,000 years ago, in a day when our own European ancestors were living in caves in then far warmer regions, what is now Pyrenean France, Cantabrian Spain, or Lacustrine Switzerland. All right, they're letting you know this guy. What happened? That seems that Brazil seems to have the ancient land, which was perhaps the cradle of the world's oldest civilization, the cradle of the world. All right, we're talking about, Graham Hancock showing us that they found evidence of at least 100,000 years of human occupation in the Amazon. This guy said 60,000 years ago. We're talking about the Maya said they got the root, their tree, their roots. It's in South America, but their empire went all the way up to the Mayas, all right? All the way region there. It too is the Mecca of the treasure hunter, prepared to risk death in very unpleasant forms in order to trail the whereabouts of ancient gold mines or lost mines of platinum, which later appears on cryptic charts and derroteros made by wandering Jesuit missionaries of the late 16th and 17th centuries. All right, the fertile land, and deposited in the old Viceroyal Lusitanian archives now found in the Biblioteca Nacional de Rio de Janeiro. Many of these lost mines or caches lie deep in the virgin forests of Brazil. Some of them were the quest of those hardy and valiant land pirates, the bandeiristas of Sao Paulo, who waged war on Jesuit missions and reducciones, where mining was done by the fathers with Indian aid, the servants, encomiendas, in the 17th and 18th centuries. When I was in Rio in 1938, I heard about a French engineer. All right, so real quick, he said Indians, right? Not Africans, work in the mines. Apollinaire Fraud, who had gone into the unknown region west of the Goyas Plateau to search for some very ancient gold mines. For half a century, Fraud had hunted these ancient mines, and in the course of his wanderings had stumbled on ancient rock inscriptions in Amazonas and the Mato Grosso woods, which to his amazement revealed the amazing fact that the ancestors of the ancient Egyptians, listen to this, what did he find in the Amazon, this guy? That the ancestors of the ancient Egyptians were of South American origin. They were from South America and had left these petroglyphs as portalanos to the location of the ancient gold mines they worked, and which are now shrouded in dense bush and lianas, haunted by poisonous snakes, loathsome insects whose bite is pathogenic, and dangerous animals, in some cases swamps of vast size, border the ancient mines. And here again, if Indian stories are not entirely mythical, tracks, huge and recognized, left in the slime of the marshy beaches by monsters of Mesozoic type, leave no doubt as to what sort of lost world lies behind. I shall refer to this aspect of mysterious South America in a subsequent book. All right, again, he's letting you know that the ancestors of the ancient Egyptians were of South American origin. All right, was the true old world. Right? Continuing says other inscribed stones, almost obliterated after thousands of years, have been found in these unknown jungles of Brazil, and purport that Phoenician and their kingsmen, the Carthaginians, also wandered this way thousands of years ago, trading and hunting valuable mineral lodes. Before my reader scouts the idea of these revelations of antique civilization in South America, he or she must remember that more than 2,000 photographs of these ancient petroglyphs have been made by fraud and native prehistorians in Brazilian wilds. All right, so you can research that. This guy, Frost, all right, or Fraud, found, all these inscriptions there. There's like pictures of this and stuff, all right, of these ancient petroglyphs. All right, it says in the Brazilian wilds, and that the inscriptions range from the hieroglyphic demotic or hierarchic forms to cuneiform or Proto-Phoenician forms, Paleo-Hebrew, such as been found cut in caves in the Canary Islands, or are codified in Jacinius Scripture Linguae Phoenicianae Monumenta. Now says Fraud had been exploring these wild woods of Brazil since he was a youth. It was in the province of Amazonas that he came on an ancient carved rock hidden by dense jungle close to a river, which recorded the journey of a Proto-Egyptian priest to what is now Bolivia. The ancient inscriptions went on to speak of Proto-Egyptian silver mines located in what is now the basin of Rio Madeira, south of the Madeira Falls. These portolanos in stone must be the oldest treasure shards known. One of them reads as follows, and look what it's saying. It says that they translated those glyphs and says, "Look out with care for a high hill on whose summit are 6 palm trees. Close by the foot of this hill thou wilt find yet another carved rock telling thee of what lies ahead on the road to the mines of gold we work." Stage by stage, these portolanos and ancient stones ran across central Brazil, from some very ancient Proto-Egyptian port, which must have been located between Bahia and Rio de Janeiro in the plateau of Goiás, on the edge of the mysterious wilderness which has never at any time been under sea or ice, and which today is known as the Roosevelt Tableland. Fraud found one of these stones while he was running down an old Carthaginian trail. All right, he's finding this all in Brazil. He's talking about Carthaginian trail, right? The clue of the hieroglyphics led him to a very ancient gold mine. All right, so he found it like Indiana Jones following the clues in the middle of a virgin forest too thick for him to penetrate. Indeed, many of these ancient Brazilian Bolivian gold mines today are buried in the middle of ancient woods. Fraud says his inscription proved that the ancestors of the Egyptians, now listen to this, long before they passed to Africa and the Nile, had established an ancient South American empire ranging from what is now Bolivia to Bahia. So wait a minute. So you're saying that before they went over to Africa and the Nile, they already had established an ancient South American empire? So wouldn't that mean that they were from here first? They originated here? If they were here first, why are you calling them Pro-Egyptian? And that's a Greek word. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Who civilized who? Over there in Egypt, again, it just came out of nowhere. Language, writing, they don't know. It's a legacy. They teach us this. They don't know how it originated because all this started over here. All right, this guy's letting you know, Fraud. He found all this in the Amazon. And that he knows that this proves that the Egyptians, long before they passed to Africa and the Nile, had established an ancient South American empire, ranging from what is now Bolivia to Bahia. So while the treasure hunter is deeply engaged in trailing down caches of Proto-Egyptian gold bars and ingots in South America's jungles and foothills, he may by chance blunder on some enigmatical obelisk of unknown age, carved with hieroglyphics and covered with multicolored drawings and imperishable pigments such as Señor Julio Tello found near Trujillo, Peru in 1933. Or he may drop on a Waka. All right, I've shown you what this means in my Black Panther Wakanda video. Waka, Waka, Wakanda, Waka, Tanka, sacred, spiritual. All right, so he says, or he may drop on a Waka, ancient treasure tomb, wherein he may find, as did Berliner archaeologists 80 miles east of Cusco towards a Bolivian border, and terra incognita, peculiar ceramics or tubes made of some material like glass, but not glass, being of unknown chemical composition. All right, so you see, we got other sources, other people letting you know where's the true old world, what they're finding over here in Brazil. The Kresby Ancient Artifact Collection of Cuenca, Ecuador, compiled by Glenn M. Chapman, 1998. Father Carlo Kresby, who comes from Milan, has lived in the small town of Cuenca, Ecuador, for more than 50 years. He is a priest of the Church of Maria Auxiliadora. Kresby was accepted by the Indians as a real friend. They used to bring him presents from their hiding places. Finally, the father had so many precious objects stored in his house and the church that one day he received permission from the Vatican to open a museum. This museum in the Salesian school at Cuenca grew and grew until in 1960 it was one of the biggest museums in Ecuador, and Kresby was recognized as an archaeological authority. Again, an archaeological authority. But he was always been a rather embarrassing servant of his church, for he asserts vehemently that he can prove that there was a direct connection between the old world, Babylon, and the new world, pre-Inca civilizations. Again, Father Kresby, who lived amongst the Indians in Ecuador, who was collecting all this artifact, archaeological stuff they were giving him, right? Who had evidence and proof because he was seeing it, he was living it, said he had proof that there was a direct connection between the old world Babylon and the new world pre-Inca civilizations. And that goes right against prevailing opinion. On 20th July 1962, there was an act of arson and the Father's Museum was burnt down. What Father Kresby managed to salvage was housed in two long narrow rooms, which were in a terrible, muddled brass, copper, sheet, metal, zinc, tin, and stone, and wooden objects, and in the midst of them all pure gold, sheet gold, silver, and sheet silver. Eric Van Danken, in his book Gold of the Gods, says, in this treasure, let the Vatican Grail guardian Father Kresby of Cuenca be the key witness to the pre-Christian origin of the metal treasures. He said to me, everything that the Indians brought me from the tunnel dates to before Christ. Most of the symbols in prehistoric representations are older than the flood. Older than the flood. We're talking about antediluvian, right? Ancient times before the flood. Father Kresby has partially stacked his metal plaques by motives. For example, those with pictures of pyramids, antediluvian pyramids in America. I took a close look at more than 40, and some of them are reproduced in this book. All the pyramid engravings have four things in common. A sun, but more frequently several suns, is depicted above the pyramid. Again, a sun above the pyramid. What do we know that as? Snakes are always flying next to or over the pyramid. Snakes, or are we talking about dragons? Flying serpent Quetzalcoatl? Again, snakes are always flying next to or over the pyramid. Animals of various kinds are always present. He led us into an inner court of the schoolyard, where old Spanish wooden doors faced inward and the off-scrubbled floors gleamed with sunlight, bouncing off the polished terrazzo. We were unprepared for what was to come. Father Kresby took a large key from a ring that hung from a braided belt around his robe, then moved to an obscure wooden door and turned the lock. Together, with a single helper, he disappeared into the dark room. Both soon reappeared with a large piece of metal that had been molded and hammered into a long sheet. It looked like it might be made of gold. The sheet was inscribed with a curious artwork beyond identification. Next, they dragged something from the darkness too large to be carried, and only with strenuous exertions were they able to lean it against the stucco wall. It stands 22 inches high and about 7 inches wide. Its weight must have been prodigious. I reached my hand to touch the object and noticed it featured a dark covering, as if it had been painted. At first, I supposed it must have been made of lead because it was soft and almost pliable. Then the nails of my fingers bit into the body of the figure through the paint, and the gleam from the telltale scratch left no doubt that it was made of pure gold. Our cameras began to click, and in the excitement, Father Kresby talked excitedly, hardly stopping to breathe. He was our enthusiast instructor, showing us each new piece as though it had just been brought to the light of day for the first time. What other wonders did his black vault contain, we wondered. The old man's nimble fingers joined the ends of two barren electric wires, and the chamber was instantly revealed in the radiance of an incandescent glow. The gleam of gold, silver, and bronze everywhere added to the brightness of its interior. Shelves of dusty, worn ceramics, starry-eyed idols posturing in hideous stances or strange proportions. Stacked from floor to ceiling were hundreds of large cardboard pieces on which were wired metal bracelets, earrings, nose rings, and necklaces, some untarnished by time. Hide scrapers, tools, implements of war, spears, axes, clubs of wood, metal, and stone were stacked everywhere. Father Kresby's mysterious room seemed overburdened with the treasures of an unknown
Let me set this back up.
chariot in his underground chamber. All right? America. Elephants in America. The images of horse-drawn chariots were clearly etched into metal, calling to mind Juan Moritz's description of a Roman chariot in his underground chamber. All right? Horses and chariots, Roman in America, and these plates in Ecuador, in the middle of a mountain town in the jungle. We photographed a plate inscribed with representations of what appeared to be Egypt's step pyramid. Still more plates contain artwork with what looked like Assyrian or Babylonian symbols. We grew dizzy with the gleaming opulence and historical anomaly all around us. Aware of Father Kresby's enthusiasm for archaeology, the grateful Indians brought him ancient objects long hidden in the jungle. So these things were hidden in the jungle from ancient times. Soon his collection steadily increased until after 50 years it filled many rooms. A museum was constructed to house these remarkable gifts, but a few years before our visit, it was seriously damaged by an arsonist's fire. Father Kresby managed to salvage 3 full rooms of the relics, one of relatively obscure and unimportant tributes, another filled with items of curious antiquity, but the last was a treasury of gold artifacts. Residing high among the Andes Mountains in an obscure village, the old man had no interest in fame or fortune. Few travelers knew of his collection and even fewer scientists. He was a private person with a big heart and a deep interest in the past. Where and how do the Indians find these incredible things? We wondered. Oh, they just get them from the caves and subterranean chambers in the jungles, he answered in an offhand manner. All right, so did you hear that? So these local or modern Indians that were there at this time, bringing Father Kresby, were actually not the ones who made these things. They were finding these things in the caves. These were things left by the aboriginals or ancient people, antediluvian people of Ecuador. All right. There are over 200 kilometers of tunnels starting here in Cuenca. All right, 200 kilometers of tunnels under Cuenca in Ecuador. They run from the mountains down to the eastern lowlands near the Amazon. You hear that? Wayne Hamby, an assistant to Cheeseman, spent a few more days with Father Kresby to catalog and photograph the entire collection. His results went into the files of Dr. Cheeseman, who died after his retirement from the faculty of Brigham Young University. 2 years following our visit to the kindly priest, I returned to Cuenca with Ben Holbrook, our 2 young sons, and a pair of Ecuadorian LDS missionaries acting as interpreters. We were greeted by a young priest who informed us that Carlos Kresby had passed away in January 1980, and his collection was no longer available for public view. In spite of many efforts to convince him that we had traveled a long distance to view the relics, he stubbornly refused to allow us to see the treasures. He insisted that the room with the artifacts could not be shown on orders from the Vatican. All right, so the Vatican said, don't show any of these things to anyone else. When Carlos Kresby died, they were like, no, all right, we got to seal this up, you know, don't show it to anybody else. They told the priest that was there, so he didn't let him in, says here. To my knowledge, no one from the outside world has seen the treasure since the death of the old padre. Mr. Barton heard rumors that much of the treasure had been shipped to Rome, to the Vatican, and I wouldn't doubt that at all. All right, so actually I have one of Richard Wingate's books. So let's go to the source directly because they're going to read the exact same thing that's in his book. All right, so now we're in this book. It's called Lost Outpost of Atlantis. Lost Outpost of Atlantis by Richard Wingate. And we're going to read from chapter 1 of this book. It's called Treasure Atlantis in the Andes. All right, so we're going to talk about the same thing we've been reading, right? And it says here, in a dusty, cramped shed on the side porch of the Church of Maria Auxiliadora in Cuenca, Ecuador, lies the most valuable archaeological treasure on Earth. More than $1 million worth of dazzling gold stashed here, and much silver, yet the hard money value of this forgotten hoard is not its principal worth. There are ancient artifacts identified as Assyrian, Egyptian, Chinese, and African, so perfect in workmanship and beauty that any museum director would regard them as first-class acquisitions. Since this treasure is the strangest collection of ancient archaeological objects in existence, its value lies in the historical questions it poses and demands answers to. Yet it is unknown to historians and deliberately neglected in the journals of the orthodox archaeology. I love that man, my companion sighed. The people around here think he's a saint. We were on our way to a storehouse of marvels I had heard described by several witnesses, but never seen for myself. That man was Carlo Kresby, a jungle missionary, a priest of the Maria Auxiliadora Church, an explorer and the discoverer of extraordinary archaeological treasure. My companion was Cecilia de Egues, a travel agent and translator and one of Father Kresby's many friends. When we arrived at the church, Father Kresby bent, aged figure strode out to meet us, with an energy that belied his 86 years. "Cecilia," he exclaimed, his eyes widening with pleasure. "Where are you going? To bring a little one for me to baptize." Cecilia blushed and introduced us with the formality due her family priest. Kresby shook my hand vigorously. "So you're the archaeologist, eh?" he asked, a sly smile twinkling his pale blue eyes. Cecilia translated the wry greeting and responded, "Not an archaeologist, an explorer and photographer, and a man with great respect for your collection." "Ah," the priest said, "enough flattery. Then let's take a look without ceremony." He forced a key into an ancient rusty padlock and opened the rickety door to his museum. He touched two bare wires together and a watery yellow light went on. Father Kresby was smiling like a man with a very remarkable secret. I was skeptical of the reports I had heard about this place, but now that cautious attitude gave way to unabashed astonishment. Stacked against the far wall were golden mummy cases in the quasi-Egyptian style with a black baked enamel finish. A dozen complete sets of gleaming golden ceremonial armor, beaten gold Chaldean style helmets, and golden inscribed plagues were piled haphazardly on the floor. These dazzling memoirs of lost times were scattered among an array of beautifully carved Pacific, Oceanic, and African-style wooden statues, shields of a rich red copper, pottery, canes, sheets, and rolls of silver-colored metal, and strange, unidentifiable gears, pipes, and wheels which might have been parts to long-lost technological systems. Rows of intricately figured sheet metal stood haphazardly piled around the shed. The priest explained that it had been torn of the interior walls of a long, abandoned, vine-choked buildings in the inaccessible eastern jungle. You hear that? So these sheets, these golden sheets, were basically on a wall, on a temple, on a pyramid, and they were. It says here, torn off the interior walls of a long abandoned, vine-choked building. Vine-choked. The jungle had taken it over. Inaccessible eastern jungle. You hear this? This is that Indiana Jones type of stuff. All right, but this is real facts. The Indian artifact hunters bring this wallpaper, golden sheets, they call it wallpaper. Walls of gold, right? This is the real wallpaper, ancient wallpaper, sheets of gold. The Indian artifact hunters bring this wallpaper in three different metals. Gold, a metallurgically unique, untarnished silver, and an unknown alloy with the appearance of shiny aluminum. Every square inch of the peculiar sheet metal is decorated with intricate designs, some of them depicting long-forgotten ceremonial occasions, and some of them humorous and cartoon-like occasions. The rolls come in heights that vary for the most part from 8 to 12 feet, and they are often 15 to 30 feet long. You hear that? These rolls are often 15 to 30 feet long. These lengths are composed of many individual 4-foot sheets which have been artfully riveted together. He showed me a dozen bronze plagues. Seemingly, they were among his favorite acquisitions. The illustrations borne by the plagues made me catch my breath. Images of Egyptian princesses and Assyrian gods. Again, images of Egyptian princesses and stared at me with a severity undiminished by the passage of centuries. One of the plagues bore the image of a Caucasian man writing linear script with a quill pen. Linear script? A quill pen? Needless to say, the Andes Indians did not have a written language when the Spanish arrived, let alone a tool for writing. There were reportedly 56 solid gold plaques originally, but after a disastrous arson in 1962, which local political fanatics claimed credit for, Father Kresby had molds made by a local casket maker, and the best dozen of his precious plaques were duplicated in coffin-handled bronze. The original gold plaques lie safe today in a bank vault. Father Kresby granted me permission to take photographs. Since most museums jealously guard their treasures from photographers, the priest's open generosity won me over. Lack of space inside the shed forced me to set up my tripod and camera in the sunlight outer courtyard. The priest himself brought his treasures out for me to record on film. Hours passed and the usual afternoon equatorial winter rain began. The father was growing tired. We quit for the day. I had exposed over 10 rolls of film, taken more than 300 pictures, and covered only a tiny percentage of the 70,000 artifacts. Again, 70,000 artifacts. 70,000 artifacts. These are not savages. All right, which filled the museum's 3 rooms to their ceilings. As it turned out, I made not one but 3 additional visits to Father Kresby in Cuenca, exposed over 3,000 frames, and I still have captured only 2% of the collection on film. Between my second and third trips, the Padre's treasure hunters apparently hit upon a fresh cache in the jungle caves. So many new pieces arrived during this period that I was forced to climb over heaps of newly unearthed objects in order to get to certain items that I particularly wanted to photograph. He had to climb over so much artifacts they were bringing. Even when he was there, they were still bringing new artifacts, these Indians from the caves. They knew where they were hidden. They had found them. He has cared for the people, listened to their stories of fabulous deep jungle temples, explored the treasure-filled Tayos caves, and stubbornly provided a museum for the strange artifacts of the country. When Father Kresby and his Indian diggers tell of the places where they find their artifacts, they describe giant pyramids. Again, giant pyramids, immense deserted cities. Talking about in the jungle, the Amazon, fantastic sacred tunnels and caves. The cities, they say, still shine with a mysterious, cool, bluish light when the sun goes down. The tunnels are reportedly large enough to drive a locomotive through. They have cut stone entrances and walls, which by native account are as smooth as glass. Can you imagine all this, right? All this stuff that we don't know is up in the Amazons and these jungles in South America, Central America, North America, all these things that they keep from us that we don't even know, right? That exist. And it is these tunnels, at least according to the Indian explorers, that hold the bulk of the material being offered to the Maria Auxiliadora Museum and to other collectors. It is a fantastic tale, but when one sees the evidence, the thousands of gold treasure trinkets, the story of a vast tunnel system become nearly plausible.
You see over here, Wilder, actually on the side of the pyramid type structure. I mean, it may not be a true pyramid, but certainly you've got the slope, which is an idea. Let's have a slope just climbed up. It goes all the way down to the river, which is way. So down there, you've got a waterfall, which flows down. And the top is sort of hidden away. What's really interesting here is you follow the line of stone, there's a hole, and it seems that there's a second layer of stone beneath the blocks. Now this is, and it's very smooth, it's the same kind of material, but there's a gap between the top layer of blocks and this smooth stone. Now this is pretty weird. You wouldn't expect that. I mean, just to give you an idea, Let's see, I can sort of show you that this is actually goes off inside there. It's a broom handle I've got with me. See, there's actually a gap in there. There's actually a hole underneath the stone. You know, idea the size of the hole. The broom, so it goes in pretty deep. Yeah. Doesn't look very natural, does it? Okay.
Although legend tells of this tunnel network honeycombing all of Ecuador and Peru, the only part of it that has, to my knowledge, been documented is located in the very dangerous Quivaro country, between the Santiago and Morona rivers near Tallos. And this Tallos case, just before I continue, is very, has a lot of drop. You guys got to research that. The Tallos cave. Go ahead and research what's in there. There is megalithic structures in there. It looks like something happened, but there's like definitely man-made walls there. You got to go into that. Unfortunately, this area is decidedly out of bounds for the foreign adventurer. The local Indians have killed at least 4 inquisitive outsiders in the last 2 years. Yet the tunnels of the Chuara tribes, Jivaro, have been photographed. A naturalized Ecuadorian named Juan Moritz took several rolls of high-quality pictures. Verified in this way, the accounts the natives have been given Kresby, and subsequently lay legal claim to the entire tunnel network. His grandiose claim was denied by the courts, but his photographs cannot be. All right, so we're about to look at some images here. So again, Father Kresby with Wayne Hamby, it says here. Father Kresby with one of his gold artifacts. See the moon. We got Kresby carved gold plate with bearded figures. A Kresby gold plate with hieroglyphic writing. Look at that. A golden helmet and a golden girdle. Look at this. You can see the design, you can see the features. I don't know if you can see the features of the person. Various Kresby golden artifacts. Look at the detail on this rod or staff, whatever it is. Wow. It looks like it's a dragon here or something. What is that? Alright, look at this. Kresby bronze figure. Look at this figure. Look at his features. Look at his nose and his mouth. Who is that? A Kresby carved golden sheet with Paul Barton. It says here. Look at that. Wow. This was on a wall. Right? This was the wallpaper of a temple. Gold. Kresby Middle Eastern stone carved figures with serpent. You see this? This looks Assyrian Babylonian, right? Marduk holding the grain of the corn, right? You saw my corn videos where he's holding in his hand with the pouch with the seeds. Kresby gold plates with hieroglyphic writing and serpent figure. Okay, look at this. Kresby collection with pyramid and Paleo-Hebrew writing. Kresby collection with pyramid and Paleo-Hebrew writing. Look at that. Paleo-Hebrew. Gold Kresby artifact plate with Egyptian hieroglyphics and figures. All right, you can see all the Egyptian gods and everything, just like in the walls of Egypt temples. Kresby gold plate showing a robed person writing a record with serpent figures. Look at that. All right, look at this guy, looks like a priest or Vatican bishop or something. Carved stone Kresby artifact showing writing and figure of an elephant. All right. says Kresby gold plate with it written in zodiacal character. The zodiac. A Kresby ceremonial object with elephant and serpent. Elephant. Right here we got this other image right here. You can see. Interesting. An elephant here. It says Kresby gold plate with various. Got another figure here, right here to the left. It looks like corn right next to him. That's definitely corn. So this is America. They're depicting something in America. See like a pyramid. See a person on top. See some animals in the bottom. It says here in the bottom, it says showing a Kresby golden plate showing a pyramid with serpents along the sides and sun disk. All right. On top, an elephant, a llama, and toxodon. Supposed to be extinct in America 1,000,000 years ago. A toxodon, depiction of a toxodon, which is supposed to be extinct 1,000,000 years ago, in this gold-plated Aboriginal artifact from Ecuador. All right, on the right, you can see this, the sign too. See the cone hat. The sun in the belly. It says Kresby gold plate showing a warrior with braided armor and headdress holding a naked child with serpent wrapped around his waist. See that? All right. It says here Kresby strange carved stone showing a dinosaur. Okay, a dinosaur or dragon. Kresby gold wall covering showing strange reptile bird. It says here. It does look a little strange. Look at it. And the right says Kresby human figure with tattoo of strange reptile. Strange reptile, right? We got here a Kresby strange crown showing a bearded man with a crown and a sun disk and woman with clown. Right? Then on the right we have Kresby gold disc with figures of suns, serpents, and a 5-pointed star. And I guess this is from Crete, over here on the left. A similar maze from Minoan ancient Greek. They're giving you a reference of what they found here in Ecuador. It says Kresby stone tablet with carved maze. So you can see that it's almost the same basically. They're trying to show you. All right. Kresby gold plate showing figure of their god with serpents. Kresby gold plate showing a warrior with armor and weapons with strange braided headdress holding a serpent. Strange braided headdress? Looks Egyptian to me. He got a cross, he got a staff with a cross, and he's holding a snake. Oh, come on. Look at that. Wow. Look at this. Kresby gold plate showing a warrior with a braided headdress with sun disk, armor, and serpents. This looks Egyptian. Got the serpent in the forehead and everything. Come on. Where is the true old world? Wake up. Kresby gold plate showing queen with dress decorated with serpents and strange images. Kresby gold plate with hieroglyphic writing. And it says here a pre-Inca wall showing serpent portrayal. It says Richard Wingate in Lost Outpost of Atlantis offers evidence for the authenticity of the bulk of the Kresby collection. He writes, similar epigraphy in Father Kresby's collection was also labeled as clumsy Indian fraud until better trained scholars discovered some inscriptions were written in classically pure Egyptian hieroglyphics, Egyptian hieratic, Libyan and Celt-Iberian and Punic. Again, Richard Wingate, right? He says that everybody thought it were fraud, or that it could have been it wasn't done by people who were trained scholars. But when actually trained scholars did see these plates, right, or these pictures, however they saw them, and they saw the inscriptions on them, they said they were written in classically. It said that means old, classically, pure Egyptian hieroglyphics, Egyptian hieratic, Libyan and South Iberian and Punic. All right. Lost outposts of Atlantis, future book we're going to have, concerning the large numbers of brass and bronze high-pressure air pipes. Such pipes simply can't be purchased in Ecuador today. We were told by importers that we would have to special order pipes of these specifications from Germany, and the cost would be substantial. You hear that? So it says that they found, a lot of brass, bronze, high-pressure air pipes, and that this doesn't exist in Ecuador, and you would have to go get them all the way from Germany, and it would cost a lot. These technological artifacts, of course, don't fetch high prices on the market. Concerning artifacts that are made of pure or alloyed gold, the native gold panners hardly have the leisure or the inclination to fake heavy artifacts of gold and then sell them for less than the bullion value of the precious metal. The heavy mineral crust enamel coating of many artifacts indicates that they were buried under Syrian volcanic heat. Okay, you hear this? Concerning sophisticated artifacts like the Phoenician calendars, the golden Middle Eastern helmets, the golden armor, and the golden plaques. These would bring hundreds of thousands of dollars and perhaps millions on the private market. To suggest that a sophisticated forger unloaded them on the price for a low price is to deny the greed that motivates forgery. Concerning a cast steel shield, steel casting is beyond the metallurgical capacity of present-day Tayos Indians. Osman Publishing Company. And just for reference,
Coffee. Follow me.